96%. Chapter 381. The Six Pins Family, Mighty Battle, subscription required. Generally, people in the guest house are passers-by, and choosing an ordinary upper room is already considered a preferential treatment for themselves. After all, they will not stay in one place for too long. But Xing Yi Xiaoxiao directly arranged the best private room for Zhang Chushuan to move in, obviously pitting him. Without paying much attention to such trivial matters, Zhang Chushuan stayed in the room for 3 days, during which no one disturbed, and Jiyu Chengfeng next to him seemed to be waiting for Zhang Chushuan's reply, and did not go out for 3 days. Squeak. The two adjacent elegant rooms opened at the same time, and Jiyu Chengfeng looked over curiously, wanting to know which noble person was willing to spend a lot of spirit stones to stay in this top-level elegant room. When he saw Zhang Chushuan's face, Jiyu Chengfeng was stunned for a moment, and immediately smiled and said, "It turned out to be Zhang Daoyu, and I was still thinking about which Taoist friend I had such a relationship with, lived on the same floor, and was a neighbor. I wonder what you is thinking about." In fact, Zhang Chushuan did not take Jiyu Chengfeng's words to heart that day, and spent these 3 days quietly concentrating, thinking about ways to annex the Dai dynasty. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly. "I wonder what you need to do next." Upon hearing this, Jiyu Chengfeng was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly walked to Zhang Chushuan. "Taoist friends only need to replace my Jiyu family to fight at that time, and strive to be first under the premise of ensuring the second." 35. The look on Jiyu Chengfeng's body was invisible in Zhang Chushuan's eyes, like a sparkling gem. "You should have invited me alone, right?" "Hee. Don't hide it from Taoists. I did invite a few fellow Taoists in Sha, but they are not as powerful as Taoists." At this time, Zhang Chushuan somewhat understood what the golden finger of this son of luck was. Pretending to be brooding, he said, "What if the few people you invited help the Jiyu family stabilize the second place, and they can't help you compete for the first place? Please rest assured that no matter what the final result is, my Jiyu family will give Taoist friends a satisfactory remuneration." "Good." Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan directly agreed. Seeing this, Jiyu Chengfeng pulled the other party even more excitedly, and said, "I also ask Taoists to move. The big competition between families will start soon, and also ask Taoists to familiarize themselves with my Jiyu family to avoid causing some jokes at that time." On the way, from Jiyu Chengfeng's mouth, Zhang Chushuan also learned that the reason why he kept wooing strange cultivators outside to help the Jiyu family was because there was a rule between several of their families. No one in their respective families was allowed to make a move. As a result, many people from the 4 major six-pin families have recently dispatched to find foreign aid for their respective families. After all, the stronger the strength of the invited cultivators, the stronger the strength of their own family, and they invisibly suppress the other party. Moreover, if these cultivators are willing to stay after the family competition, it will invisibly add a bit of strength to their family, although there is a risk of defeat, but it is worth a fight. The Jiyu family is in the southwest of Tianq City, covering an area of thousands of acres, with countless pavilions, and many people live in it, like a paradise. Zhang Chushuan followed behind Jiyu Chengfeng, and it took more than an hour to be arranged in the guest room of the Jiyu family. "Zhang Daoyu, please rest well. Tomorrow, the Taoists who have come to help will gather here in the next day. Everyone will meet first." Aha! Speaking of which, the Jiyu family treats the guests well, and there are 2 lovely maids who have been guarding outside the guest room, waiting for the flying at any time. Moreover, Jiyu Chengfeng also ordered someone to send some spirit stones. Zhang Chushuan roughly estimated, there are thousands of them, and they are all of top quality. Ideographic period. This kind of remuneration, ordinary cultivators will not refuse. Anyway, it is money for nothing. If it is invincible to the opponent at that time, it is to admit defeat on the spot, and the Jiyu family will not ask for it back. One night without words. Knock knock. In the early morning of the second day, Jiyu Chengfeng knocked on the door, and seeing that the 2 maids were still complete, a meaningful light flashed in Jiyu Chengfeng's eyes, and it flashed away. "Zhang Daoyu, please move." Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan followed the other party to a larger courtyard, where 5 monks of different costumes and men and women were already waiting. Seeing that Zhang Chushuan seemed to be a young man, one of the female cultivators suddenly became interested, while the other middle-aged men snorted coldly and said to Jiyu Chengfeng, "Young Master Jiyu, is this Taoist friend reliable? He is young and afraid that he will not be able to take on this great responsibility." Quote, "Hee. Deng Daoyu is overwhelmed. There will be no mistake in looking at people below, otherwise, you will not gather here." Quote. Tisk, where did this pretty boy come from? Come and come, let the real person love it well. The female cultivator wanted to get started even more, but she was easily dodged by Zhang Chushuan, which immediately made her resentful. Well, I will gather you all today, and you all know in your hearts what is going on, and there will be no more nonsense in the future. However, I still hope that I can get along well at that time, and join hands to keep the second place of the Gu family. Quote. Gu Xiao, with a few of us here, are you still afraid that you won't be able to complete the things that you can't explain? The girl said and laughed. The nun nodded at the court, and Gu Chengfeng also explained. This time, you will enter a secret realm with the people of the other three major families, and what you have to do is to try your best to compete for the family token placed in it. Each family has a total of 10 pieces, whoever obtains the most will have the greatest merit, and the family represented will be able to win. 5. Although it is very easy to say, everyone understands in their hearts that there must be many dangers in this, otherwise several major families will not invite them as outsiders and gain benefits in vain. Among them, you can take action against the people of the other families, but do not harm the people of the same family, otherwise not only you will be punished by the four major families, but also the families you represent. Please keep it in mind. Don't worry, Gu Xiao, just say, when the Kings starts. Tomorrow at noon. After saying that, Gu Chengfeng left directly and handed over the place to the 6 people, but he didn't care what would happen. The female cultivator named Zhao Niang leaned directly to Zhang Chushuan's side, and her voice was soft. The concubine still doesn't know the name of the friend, I don't know if the friend is okay. But before she finished her words, she was pushed away by Zhang Chushuan, and she was about to get angry, and the other 4 felt the initial cultivation of the divine palace emanating from Zhang Chushuan's body, and they were even more startled, and hurriedly closed their mouths. Gentlemen, I will not interfere with what you do, but it is better not to put your mind on me. Otherwise, the consequences are serious. Several people nodded hurriedly. After all, their strongest person was also the peak of Shusho. The young lady lowered her head even more, and her body trembled a little, also. Please also ask Lord Zhenjin not to care about the concubine before acting together. 96%. Chapter 382. A good show starts, start early. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan didn't mean to embarrass them, but said, after entering the secret realm, I won't care what you do, but I hope you can do your best to complete your task and keep the second place of the Gu family. Yes, senior. Several people did not dare to breathe, and waited for Zhang Chushuan's figure to disappear from their eyes before everyone slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Poof. Sitting directly on the ground, the young lady was extremely embarrassed. Damn, why didn't you stop me just now? Petite girl, none of us know, senior is a true monarch and strong, how can I remind you? It's time for you to change your behavior. The competition between the 4 major families of the Dai dynasty soon began, and on the morning of the second day, Gu Chengfeng came to everyone, and seeing that none of them were injured, his expression was quite relaxed, so he said with a smile, it seems that you get along well, then I will rest assured. Let's go, I'll take you to join you and enter the secret realm. 5. On the way, Zhang Chushuan suddenly said to Gu Chengfeng, can we snatch the tokens in the hands of the other 3 major families? Of course. Smiling, Gu Chengfeng explained to everyone. It stands to reason that each family can make a move against the rest of the families and snatch the tokens in their hands, but the people invited by everyone are all of similar strength, so such a thing rarely happens, and this point has not been raised before 460. 5. However, I believe that there is Zhang Daoyu. This is not a problem, then the second place of my Su family, there is no suspense to keep. As long as the other 3 major families do not exceed you too many strong, your safety will not be threatened, you can make a move at will. Thank you. 35. After learning about the rules, Zhang Chushuan became more interested in the trip. However, through this incident, he could probably figure out the strength of the 6-pin family of the Dai dynasty, so as to guess where the strength of the dynasty itself was. He only knew at present that the king of the Dai dynasty was a strong man in the late Saint Lord level, and it was unclear how many Saint Lord level powerhouses there were. Soon, under the leadership of Gu Chengfeng, Zhang Chushuan and the others were taken to the back mountains of the Gu family to join the personnel of the other 3 major families. Gu Chengfeng, you brought these 6 people. As soon as he appeared, a man with an evil smile on the other side spoke. In this case, my Peng family will surpass your Gu family. You are not ashamed. For so many years, the Peng family has not been pressed below by my Gu family, unable to turn over, and has always been in the 3rd position, which Aee courage comes from. It turned out that the man who spoke was the young master of the Peng family, the third ranked among the 4 6-rank families, Peng Tian's. Coming to Zhang Chushuan's side, Ji Yu Chengfeng said, Peng Tian's is sinister and vicious, and all kinds of dirty tricks are endless, just to fight for his own purpose. Therefore, I also asked Zhang Daoyu to take care of 1 or 2 in the secret realm, so as not to be poisoned by the people he invited. Thank you. Zhang Chushuan did not take this matter to heart. After all, in the face of absolute strength, any conspiracy is a floating cloud. The young masters of the other 2 major families only glanced at Zhang Chushuan, but did not say much. Seeing this, Ji Yu Chengfeng didn't care, but just pointed at one of them and said, Mo family, the first 6th rank family in Tianq City, the biggest enemy of our trip is the other party. Ji Yu Xiao, since everyone has arrived, let's start. Peng Tian's took the lead in walking to a stone pillar, placed a piece of broken jade into the groove, and then retreated, and the young masters of the other 2 major families followed suit. In the end, Ji Yu Chengfeng put the last piece of broken jade into the groove, and suddenly, the stone pillar rotated in place, and it vibrated even stronger. Ji Yu Chengfeng hurriedly retreated, and his expression became solemn. Boom! About a quarter of an hour later, the stone pillar erupted with a loud noise, sinking into the ground, and a crack opened in front of everyone, and the back was faintly visible, a world of birds singing and flowers. Guys, go in, I'll wait for you here. Zhang Chushuan and Zhao Niang's group instantly entered the secret realm, and the people of the other families were not far behind and broke in one after another. In the blink of an eye, only the young masters of the 4 major families were left in front of the secret realm. Peng Tian's came to Ji Yu Chengfeng and said gloomily, Ji Yu Chengfeng, this time, your family is finished. Oh, is it? Raising his eyebrows slightly, Ji Yu Chengfeng didn't care too much about what the other party said, everything, just look at the final result. The secret realm is very peaceful, and from time to time there is a sound of insects and birds in the ears, which calms people's hearts. The 5 young women followed behind Zhang Chushuan and asked, Senior, what do we do next? Although Ji Yu Chengfeng explained the possible location of the token, Zhang Chushuan did not move, and they did not dare to decide at will. Hearing this, the corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth were slightly upturned, and he said with a smile, Act separately, each of you is responsible for 1 or 2 tokens, if there is anything that cannot be solved, feel free to find me. Speaking, Zhang Chushuan stretched out his hand a little, and the 5 people only felt a ray of light invading their bodies, and they instantly changed color, thinking that they were going to be controlled. But he heard the other party laugh and said, I can feel your position, when the time comes, as long as I silently think in my heart, I will rush there. Thank you, Senior. The 5 of them were happy and gave a big salute to Zhang Chushuan before leaving together. The people of the other 3 major families had long dispersed and left in all directions. Zhang Chushuan thought about it and chased in the direction where the Peng family left. On the Peng family's side, the leader was a one-eyed man named Chen Zhu. He was tall, and his muscles looked even stronger and more powerful, but the other 3 people around him were very normal, ordinary monks. As soon as he entered the secret realm, Chen Zhu went straight to the first goal, and did not forget to order the 3 people around him. There are many elixirs worth picking in this secret realm, lucky, and you can get the magic weapon left here, everyone hurry up. Boss, after we find all the tokens, how can we deal with the other 3 major families? Hehe, have you forgotten Peng Xiao's orders? A fierce color flashed in his eyes, and Chen Zhu said, as long as you can keep everyone here, Peng Xiao will definitely fulfill his previous promise to me and wait, and then Tianq City will not come as soon as you want, and leave if you want. Hey, it's still the boss's wit, take us to do this vote. Chen Zhu and the 4 were originally robbers near Tianq City, who had been hijacking passing caravans for many years, and the nearby residents hated them even more, and Tianq City sincerely ordered to hunt down Chen Zhu and the 4 people forever. If they complete the task this time, they will not only get a large amount of remuneration, but also live in Tianq City, and the 4 of them are even more riveted and ready to show their skills. Stop. After collecting a lot of elixirs on the way, the 4 of them came to the foot of a mountain. Chen Zhu immediately signaled everyone to stop. There's a problem here. 96%. Chapter 383 Asking for tokens, Earth Spinosaurus subscription required. This place looks very quiet and there is nothing abnormal, but Chen Zhu knows that the calmer this kind of place is, the more abnormal it is, and the danger is hidden in it. Boss, how do we find the first token? The first token is in this mountain. It is easy to find, everyone hurry up. The secret realm is only open for 7 days, and if you don't go out, you will always be trapped here. Boom. Suddenly, the earthquake under his feet shook, and Chenju and the 4 people hurriedly retreated, with a look of horror on their faces. Roar! The earth flew and countless trees were destroyed, and as soon as they landed, they saw a huge creature appear in front of them. This monster beast looks similar to a lizard, but its body is full of long spikes, its eyes are full of fierce light, and it roars in all directions after coming out of the dirt. It seems that he noticed the existence of Chenju, and this monster beast suddenly rushed over frantically. Not good, it's the Earth Spinosaurus, everyone retreat. Chenju, who was experienced in experience, immediately discovered the matter and hurriedly retreated with his companions. Earth Spinosaurus, a demon beast under the Zon rank, is even like a lizard, full of backstabs, earthy brown, and its strength is generally in the Divine Mansion realm. This is not the most terrifying place for them, after all, only the strength of the Divine Mansion realm, as long as everyone works together, it can be solved. The main thing is that it blends with the earth, constantly shuttling through the dirt, and you don't know it all, the next second it will swallow you from under your feet or from behind you. Knock knock. The Earth Spinosaurus, which was more than a dozen feet tall, opened its blood basin and bit Chenju and others. Seeing this, Chenju hurriedly picked up the giant hammer in his hand and drank it at the Earth Spinosaurus. Bang bang bang. The violent impact shook Chenju's mouth to crack, and his arms trembled even more, but there was not a trace of scar left on the Spinosaurus, which angered the other party even more. With a whiz into the soil, the huge figure disappeared instantly, and the surroundings returned to quiet. But Chenju did not dare to be careless, and immediately took off with the 3 companions, looking down. Be careful. 35. One of them shouted at Chenju, full of horror, "Boss, it's right behind you, get out of the way." There was a faint fishy wind behind him, and Chenju hurriedly flashed to the side, and the big mouth flew into the air, swallowing several tons of dirt into his stomach. I saw that it shook its body, and the dirt spat out from the back of its head, and it swung its tail again, slamming towards the 3 people other than Chenju. Syllable. The extremely fast speed caused the 3 of them to be drawn before they could come to their senses, and they all snorted, and their bodies quickly flew out upside down, smashing dozens of towering trees along the way, and then stopped. Poof. Chi-Chi spewed out a mouthful of blood, and the 3 of them wanted to struggle to get up, but dozens of bones on their bodies were broken, and they only had the Jaden realm to cultivate, and their injuries could not be recovered. Boss, it's all up to you. Chenju looked at the Earth Spinous dragon with a gloomy face, and his eyes were full of anger. Beast. Come on. Roar. In response to him, the angry roar of the Earth Spinosaurus was heard. Leaping sharply into the sky, Chenju thought that the other party was about to attack again, but he knew that it had once again burrowed into the dirt. Damn. If you have the ability, don't hide, and fight with Benjin generously. As a true monarch of the Divine Mansion realm, Chenju had never suffered such a great humiliation, and suddenly broke his mouth and cursed, "Beast. Come out and watch Benjin slash you with one sword." Blah blah. Suddenly, from Chenju's feet, the Spinosaurus opened its mouth of blood, swung its tail vigorously, and bit towards the other party. The tip of the foot was a little on its teeth, and Chenju took advantage of the momentum to rush higher, but the Spinosaurus chased closely and used the long tail as a foot. Throw it hard to the ground, and the huge body jumps higher, like a dragon swallowing the moon. Seeing the situation, Chenju threw out the huge hammer in his hand and smashed it into the opponent's throat. Click click, but the Earth Spinosaurus chewed beans and swallowed his giant hammer into its belly in an instant. Benjin swears that he will kill you. 33. The magic weapon in his hand was swallowed, and Chenju snorted even more, and a strong chi erupted around his body, flying around. Roar. The Spinosaurus seemed to have gotten sweetened, and its body kept going, swallowing each other in one bite. Boss. The 3 seriously injured people hurriedly exclaimed, and the sadness in their eyes grew stronger. Darkness, endless darkness, surrounded by a large amount of thick mucus, is corroding itself. Ideographic comma. Chenju waved his hands indiscriminately, trying to stand firm, but he never succeeded. If it weren't for the chi on his body to protect him, he was afraid that he would have been corroded long ago at this moment. He caught a glimpse of the giant hammer that had been with him for many years, and almost instantaneously it was corroded by the mucus in the body of the Spinosaurus, leaving only a little debris and submerged into the mucus. 0 asking for flowers. Kaishin fist. Seeing that it was about to fall into its stomach, Chenju knew that if he didn't save himself, he would die. The feeling of constantly rolling in the abdomen made the Earth Spinosaurus very uncomfortable, and it immediately regurgitated some gastric juice, wanting to spit out the culprit, but Chenju knew that this was a good time to solve the other party. How could it be let go? Both fists continued to bombard its stomach, cracks had appeared in some places, and gastric juice was constantly tumbling. Vaguely, Chenju saw a black token, tumbling in it, and he could vaguely see the word, Peng. There is nowhere to step on iron shoes. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Chenju quickly fished it out in his hand, wiped off the mucus on it, and put it in the storage bag. 39. The iron fist continued to bombard the stomach of the Earth Spinosaurus, and Chenju finally smashed through its abdomen and rushed out with a roar. Great, boss, so you're okay. It scares us to death. 99. The three of them immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and Chenju was even more proud, turning his back to the Earth Spinosaurus struggling to the ground, and said with a smile, the first token is in hand, first heal your injuries and then go to the next place. Boss, I think it's better for you to take care of yourself first. Seeing the three of them looking at themselves like ghosts, Chenju's eyes were full of doubts. A water mirror appeared, and his complexion suddenly changed greatly. A large amount of mucus corroded his skin, and in some places even Sensen's white bones were visible, like a corpse that had been buried for many years and suddenly exhumed. Ah, stop yelling, it's hard to hear. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice came from the ears of the four people, and they instantly became vigilant. Zhang Chushuan came leisurely from a distance, looking at their miserable appearance, and couldn't help but smack his tongue. Just for some reward, is it necessary to work so hard? Are you GU families? Chenju quickly recognized Zhang Chushuan. Taoist, you and I do things for our respective families, let's not violate the river water when we enter the water, so don't cross it. 99. Slow, hand over the token and go around you without dying. Quote. Rumble. But before he finished speaking, Chenju felt the powerful aura of the peak of the divine mansion realm erupting from Zhang Chushuan, and immediately changed his words. You are too polite, if you want the token to say it directly, I will give it to you. River. 97%. Chapter 384 The so-called competition, the secrets of the four families. Subscription required. A black token in front of him was thrown over by Chenju, and after starting it, he suddenly felt cold. With a casual glance at the token, Zhang Chushuan somewhat understood why several major families needed them to take these tokens. The token that appeared in the demon beast's body was not an accident, but was intentional by the people of the four major families. While digging out the demon beast Niden, they implanted these tokens in them while the other party was not dead, and added some techniques of camouflage, so that the monster beast could mistakenly believe that this token was their Niden. In the process of growing up, the monster beast will infuse all the essence into it, and gradually, the token will merge with the monster beast, or replace the original position of the inner Dan, or grow with its own bones, or store in gastric juice like this Spinosaurus. After all, they can't control the location of the token, and wherever it is placed at that time, the token will always stay in the 460 place. Thinking about this, Zhang Chushuan showed an imperceptible smile at the corner of his mouth, and said to the four, this is your first token. Yes, sir. Good. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan suddenly retracted his expression and became extremely serious. From now on, you collect the remaining tokens. If you have time, you can seize the tokens of the other two other than the GU family, and finally give them to the king. My lord, this cannot be promised. 35. The peak cultivation of the divine mansion realm broke out on his body again. Zhang Chushuan said with a smile. You still think about it. In 6 days, we will meet here. I hope you can give me a satisfactory explanation when the time comes. Without saying a word, Zhang Chushuan swaggered away, leaving only the uncertain four. Boss, do we really want to listen to him? The injured three naturally didn't want to fly away with the remuneration in hand, and they paid such a big price. Hearing this, Chenju let out a long sigh. If you don't agree, what can you do? But we can leave a part of the token and get the Peng family's remuneration, and then quickly leave Tianq City. 5. The world is so big, where can it go? Squinting his eyes slightly, Chenju was about to laugh, but he screamed. Oh, it hurts. This damn monster. Rushing towards the group of Zhao Niang, Zhang Chushuan held the token in his hand and felt the power in it. Slowly injecting spiritual power into it, suddenly, the originally quiet token burst out with a dazzling light, and among them, the Earth Spinosaurus, which shrunk several times, roared vigorously. Sure enough, as I guessed, the four major families were secretly planning something. just cherishing their own family's manpower, so they invited strange cultivators to come. Presumably, all the previous cultivators were silenced by them. I just don't know, what do they want these tokens for? You can wait for this to go out, and investigate and study it. Senior, you are finally here. Zhao Niang and the others should have fought with a monster beast just now, and several people have some scars on their bodies, but the problem is not big, and they have not lost their combat strength. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan asked, how many tokens have you got? That's it. Taking out the silver-white token, the young lady said in a deep voice. We didn't expect that the token was devoured by the monster beast, and it was also integrated into its own flesh and blood. If it weren't for me and others who wanted to collect some materials from the monster beast, I'm afraid I would have missed it. Hee, this token was not devoured by a demon beast. Quote. Verified on the Zhao Niang side, Zhang Chushuan believed even more in his heart that he speculated. The remaining 9 tokens are all in the body of the demon beast, and the location is not the same. What? The 5 people were shocked, and the young lady hurriedly asked. Senior is saying that this is deliberately done by the 4 major families. Count you smart. Nodding, Zhang Chushuan took out the black token representing the Peng family and said, this was found in the stomach of a demon beast, but several of them are much worse than you and are seriously injured. Quote. Senior, I think we better not continue. As if thinking of something, Zhao Niang and the other 4 people were full of worry. There must be a conspiracy between the 4 major families to do this, and there were many Taoists who were paid after the incident, but they died one after another with various strange accidents, and no one has survived to the present. I don't want to die yet. The girl's face became more and more ugly. It was Zhang Chushuan who smiled indifferently. Don't worry, the 4 major families won't do anything to you. If you really don't worry, when the task is completed, you can take away the remuneration and go away, completely away from the Day Dynasty 0 inches. Listening to Zhang Chushuan's words, the 5 faces looked much better. Let's go, continue hunting the monster beast, and take the token in it. 35. Outside the secret, Peng Tian said to the Mo family, do you think, how many beast souls will they bring out this year? No surprise, it's about the same as in previous years. The young master of the Mo family was very quiet, and when he heard this, he only answered casually. Hearing this, Peng Tian laughed. Mo Xiao, how about making a bet between you and me? It depends on who brings out the most beast souls. The losing side promises a condition to the other side. Boring. Shaking his head, Mo Xiao no longer paid attention to the other party and went to rest. It was the Qin family, who ranked 4th, who took the initiative to come to Peng Tian and said with a smile, Peng Tian, how about I bet with you? No suspense at all. Seeing this, Qin Feng was not angry and turned away. The battle in the secret realm continued, and 5 days passed. Zhang Chushuan and the others had obtained dozens of tokens, most of which were taken from the other 3 families, and they dared to be angry and could only endure it. The Jiyu family's stone tokens have all been obtained, and the 5 Zhaoniang have divided 2 pieces each. After all, they will also be rewarded according to the amount of tokens in their hands at that time. On the 7th day, all the demon beasts here were wiped out by them, and they also collected a lot of materials, and the faces of Zhaoniang and the others were full of excited smiles. Gone. With a wave of the big hand 4.4, Zhang Chushuan took them and headed towards the exit, and the people of the other 3 major families saw this and got out of the way. Boom. With the vibration, Zhang Chushuan and the others appeared in front of the 4th young master, and Jiyu Chengfeng greeted him with a smile. Daoyu, how? Live up to expectations. 9. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan handed over more than a dozen tokens of different colors to Jiyu Chengfeng, and the 5 Zhaoniang also followed. Ha ha ha, good, Taoist friends helped my Jiyu family a lot this time. When I return to the clan, the remuneration originally promised will not be less. If Taoist friends have other requirements, put forward together, my Jiyu family will definitely meet the conditions of Taoists. Compared to Jiyu Chengfeng, the young masters of the other 3 major families looked extremely ugly, and Peng Tian even shouted angrily at the scarred Chen Ju, what is going on? 97%. Chapter 385 in the fantasy world, arrogant and illegal. Subscription required. In the face of Peng Tian's angry roar, Chen Ju trembled with fright, pointed at Zhang Chushuan and said, 66.99 is him. It was he who snatched our token, resulting in only these 2 pieces. Peng Xiao, you want to decide for us? Chen Ju cried and cried, almost bursting into tears. When Peng Tian heard this, his eyes were full of anger and looked towards Zhang Chushuan. You don't follow the rules. However, without waiting for Zhang Chushuan to speak, Ji Chengfeng blocked in front of him, with a cold expression. Peng Xiao, this doesn't break the rules, right? Or is it that after so many years, no one has done such a thing, and you families have forgotten about it? 35. For a while, Ji Chengfeng attracted all the firepower of the other three major families to himself. Everyone got the token by strength. How can you say that this Taoist friend broke the rules? Ji Chengfeng, don't be so arrogant. Is it arrogant and illegal? The smile on Ji Chengfeng's face was even thicker. Which eye of yours saw me arrogant? I'm just telling the truth. What, angering my young master Peng? Quote. Peng Tian's was furious, but seeing that the people of the other two major families were just full of anger and did not condemn Ji Chengfeng with him, he just snorted coldly and brushed his sleeves away. HMPH. These 4 things have their own family elders decided. Ji Chengfeng, you can't be arrogant for long. Quote. Oh, Ben is waiting for you. 99. Showing an indifferent expression, Ji Chengfeng came to Zhang Chushuan and said with a smile, fellow Taoists, thank you very much. Rest assured, I'll go home and pay you what you deserve, and let's go. 35. Where, all this is the credit of Zhang Daoyu. After the previous incident, Zhao Niang knew that they were caught in the vortex of the 4 major families, and at this time, she wanted to clear up the relationship between them. I waited for the internal injury in my eyes. If Ji Xiao is willing, he can send the remuneration to Tianxiang Lu. The meaningful light in his eyes was fleeting, and Ji Chengfeng nodded slightly. Yes. But, Zhang Daoyu, you should be fine, right? If you are not in a hurry, you can return to the Ji family with me. Ben Xiao can do his best as a landlord. Thank you for your help. Quote. Ji Xiao please. Zhang Chushuan had this intention, but he did not expect the other party to take the initiative, so he did not refuse. When the two returned to the Ji family, the head of the family, Ji Ni, and many elders in the family were already waiting in the council hall, and when they saw Zhang Chushuan, Ji Ni only bowed his head slightly. He felt that as a powerhouse at the peak of the divine mansion realm, it was not an exaggeration to do so. After the rest of the elders noticed the strong aura on Zhang Chushuan's body, they all got up. Thank you Taoist for your help, so that the Ji family can keep the second place and win the first place this time. But how did I hear that the Day dynasty also has a top 6 rank family, which was originally ranked 3rd, it seems to be. Oh yes, it seems to be the Su family. How did it suddenly become Mogu Peng Qin, your 4 major families? What about the Su family? Taoist, it seems that your news is not well informed enough. Bowing slightly, Ji Ni took the initiative to explain. Su Zecheng, the great elder of the Su family, failed to attack the distraction realm not long ago, and he can't advance in this life. And although there are 10 true monarchs in his family, it will take a long time to break through the distraction realm. Quote. Therefore, since then, the status of the Su family has plummeted, and he was caught up by Peng and Qin behind and took his place. If it weren't for the appearance of a woman named Su Luqi in the Su family, I'm afraid the Su family wouldn't even be able to keep the grade of the superior 6-rank family. Oh, who is this Su Luqi? Zhang Chushuan deliberately pretended to be surprised. A woman, it doesn't seem to be an easy thing to turn the tide in the Su family, right? What Taoist friends say is very true. Nodding slightly, Ji Ni said. Su Luqi probably returned to the Su family when Su Zi grew up and failed to impact the realm, and the legend is that she is an illegitimate daughter, and it is also said that she is the daughter of the Su family who is left behind, but neither statement is necessarily true. In just 2 months, this woman won the trust of the great elder Su Zecheng and handed over a lot of the property and power in the clan to the other party. Therefore, the Su family has recovered a little loss, so that it will not even be able to keep the grade of the superior family, but it only seems to be saved. It may take a long time to return to its former glory. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan was impressed with Su Luqi. Unexpectedly, after she returned to the Su family, she did so many things, and even had a tendency to faintly control the Su family. Okay, I invited Taoist friends today, mainly to thank Taoists for their great kindness, so I won't say these digressions. Come on. With Ji Ni's order, 3 maids with trays appeared on both sides of the council hall and appeared in front of Zhang Chushuan. And the voice of the head of the Ji family also sounded. Taoist, my Ji family will give you 3 rewards, you can choose, the old man and the elders will not interfere. 35. This first is to become the elder of the Ji family. From now on, the elders of the Ji family will listen to your orders and dispatch, and what resources you want, just 1 sentence. 35. Second, become a guest elder of the GU family. Enjoy the same treatment as the elders of the GU family, but in the future, you can only move in Tiong City, so as not to make a move when the GU family is in crisis. Of course, the chances of that happening are slim. The third is to take away the spirit stones provided by the GU family, and there will be no more connection with the GU family from now on. 35. Taoist, please choose. The smile on Ji Yuni's face bloomed, as if everything was in the 460 under his control. When Zhang Chushuan heard this, his eyebrows raised slightly. Oh. Isn't there a fourth option? Yes. 55. Nodding slightly, Ji Yuni said, go out from the GU family immediately. Hee, the GU family is really arrogant. Shaking his head, Zhang Chushuan weighed the token, weighed the storage bag, and put it away. Seeing this, Ji Yuni sighed. It seems that Taoist friends don't want to have more contact with my GU family. However, this is your choice, and I will not force it. Quote. Who said the king only needed this little reward? Boom, one by one. Suddenly, the coercion of the Holy Lord level emanated from Zhang Chushuan, and everyone in the GU family suddenly changed color, and GU Chengfeng opened his mouth even more, unable to believe everything in front of him. He only knew that Zhang Chushuan was at the peak of the divine mansion realm at most, and as for the Saint Lord level power, it was impossible. But the facts are in front of him, and he has to believe it if he doesn't believe it. With a faint smile on the corner of his mouth, Zhang Chushuan said, Master GU, this king also gives you two choices. First, submit to me and serve the king in the future, and second, be killed by me. Quote. Choose. Arrogant, extremely arrogant. Facing dozens of true monarchs in the field, Zhang Chushuan actually spoke out loudly and directly threatened the patriarch, which made many elders unable to sit still. Taoist, you're over. 97%. Chapter 386. Little Maid Su Luki, meet subscription. Ji Yuni pretended to be calm and said to Zhang Chushuan, Taoist friends are just alone, even if they are Saint Lord level powers, they may not be able to escape from the encirclement of me and others. Quote. The atmosphere of the scene was suddenly tense, and a big battle was about to break out. Hearing this, the smile on Zhang Chushuan's face was even bigger. Oh. GU family master is so confident. Even if what you say is the truth, you might as well think about it. If you let this king escape, what will your GU family face in the future? Don't need this king to say more. 6,695. For a while, Ji Yuni fell silent. A top-notch 6-rank family, although the overall strength is strong, will face the crazy revenge of a Holy Lord's power. It will definitely be impossible to prevent, and in the end, the huge family will be destroyed. This is not without precedent. With a cloudy complexion, Ji Yuni was silent for a long time, and finally sighed. In the end, my GU family has taken a look. I hope Taoist friends don't mind. However, can Taoist friends change the conditions? My GU family is willing to take out 50% of the family property and compensate Taoist friends. Patriarch, no. In an instant, the rest of the elders objected one after another. Yes, Patriarch, if I hand over 50% of the family property, our top family grade will definitely fall instantly, even the 6th product, it is impossible to keep, please think twice. 39. Please think twice. Zhang Chushuan simply clasped his hands into fists, sat aside, and watched the show. Ji Yuni suddenly slapped the table and said angrily, don't you still understand? A Holy Lord's power can make the family instantly promote to the 5th rank, how can I provoke such a person? Originally, the GU family master did not intend to say these words in front of Zhang Chushuan, but this group of elders was immortal, and they seemed to have forgotten the pressure of a top powerhouse on them for a long time. Don't say it again. This family master has decided that if anyone still disagrees, they will be expelled from the GU family from now on, and there will be nothing to do with it. For a while, the elders fell silent. Snap. There was a burst of applause in the field, and everyone looked at them, but it was Zhang Chushuan who looked at them with a smile. The GU family master is so bold, and this king admires it. But this king said that as long as you take care of your family and submit, today's events can be written off. As for the GU family's 50% family property, the king didn't care. Without saying a word, Zhang Chushuan walked towards the outside of Gu's house, leaving only one sentence. Give you 3 days to think about it, and I will wait for you in Tianxiang Tower. When he left, the GU family council hall suddenly fell into chaos, and GU Chengfeng knelt directly in front of Ji Yuni, bowed his head and said, Father, it is a child who is not Shan, and without finding out, invite such a great god. The matter has come to this. It is useless for you to talk more, and besides, you originally just wanted to plan for the sake of the family. There is no big mistake. Get up. Ji Yu Chengfeng stubbornly refused to get up, and after a long silence, he slammed his forehead on the ground heavily. Please, father, give the child a chance to let the senior take back his life. At that time, how the father will deal with the child will have no complaints. Quote. With a long sigh, Ji Yuni did not stop it. In the Tianxiang building, the 5 young women hurriedly circled in the hall on the first floor. They had already received the payment from the Ji Yu family, but they did not dare to leave yet. After all, after knowing the truth of the matter, they felt that even if they left Tianx City immediately, they would be intercepted outside the city by the experts of the Ji Yu family, and at that time, it would be better to follow Zhang Chushuan. Although the cultivation he revealed that day was only at the peak of the divine mansion realm, they all believed in each other from the bottom of their hearts and felt that he could protect themselves. This unexplained reason made the young lady even more anxious. Why hasn't Zhang Daoyu come back yet? Could it really be left behind by the Ji Yu family? Petite, let's leave. Before the Ji Yu family could react, let's fly away. Do you believe it or not, as long as you walk out of the gate of Tianxiang building, the Ji Yu family will immediately know your whereabouts. Hearing this, the 4 people did not speak. To say that the young lady can become the boss among them, because of her intelligence and wit, she can see the truth that many people can't see. Zhang Daoyu, are you all right? Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared at the door of Tianxiang Lu, and the young lady hurriedly greeted it, pulling the other party to look at it non-stop. Zhang Chushuan, who was made to cry and laugh, smiled bitterly. What do you mean by this? Ah, senior, I'm really embarrassed. I was so excited just now. Realizing her gaffe, the petite girl blushed with shame and hurriedly apologized to Zhang Chushuan. Waving his hand, Zhang Chushuan asked rhetorically, why don't you leave? Did you not receive your payment? No, the Ji Yu family sent the remuneration to Tianxiang building as promised, and I received it all later, but... The young lady was a little embarrassed, but in a big difficulty. She gritted her teeth and still said the matter. It's just that I'm worried that once I walk out of Tianx City, I will be besieged by the Ji Yu family. At that time, life and death are unpredictable. After looking at them a few more times, Zhang Chushuan did not expect that the 5 of them were not carried away by the huge remuneration, and how much sober they were, so he said, the principle is so. If there is nowhere to go, you can continue to stay in the Tianxiang building. It just so happens that I have something in the near future. I may need your help, but I don't know. I'll wait. Before Zhang Chushuan could finish speaking, the 5 young women knelt down in unison towards him and said, I'm willing to saddle up for the seniors. Ha ha ha, get up, you're welcome. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan helped the girl up and said, you guys go to rest first, I will inform you of something, don't worry. 5. Exclamation mark. The 5 men went back to their rooms suspiciously, but Zhang Chushuan found a place in the lobby on the first floor and sat down, seemingly waiting for someone. In Tianx City, a fair woman hidden under the black veil was coming to Tianxiang Tower under the protection of several guards. Just as she was about to walk in, the woman withdrew her feet and said to the guards beside her, you, the kings, are waiting for me nearby, and you are not allowed to come in without my order. Quote. Madam, but the great elder explained. Humph. Believe it or not, I'll kill you now. When the guards heard this, they immediately shrunk their necks and hurriedly left. After glancing left and right, and seeing that there were no other tails, the woman stepped into the Tianxiang building one step. It was easy to see Zhang Chushuan, and the woman strode over. Don't come without harm. Facing Zhang Chushuan's light wind, the woman was anxious. Lord Prince, I made an appointment to see you today, just to ask you to help me free. Oh, didn't you control most of the Su family? The woman took off the black veil, and a face that could be regarded as overwhelming appeared, and many people in Tianxiang building were attracted by her beautiful face. Only Zhang Chushuan's face did not change and continued to drink tea. This woman is Su Luqi. I completed my own thing, but I was controlled by the great elder. 97%. Chapter 387. I'm behind the scenes, controlling 2 families. Subscription. After listening to Su Luqi's explanation, Zhang Chushuan also understood why she could quickly control the Su family. After returning to Su's house, Su Luqi completed the goal step by step according to his plan. But just when he was about to get out smoothly, Su Zecheng, the great elder who failed to rush the pass, discovered it. Seeing such a beautiful woman, how could Su Zecheng have a reason to let it go? So he used his own strength to force Su Luqi to become his plaything. Up to now, Su Luki and the Great Elder made a false and submissive snake, and with the help of his hand, they cleared their troubles, but they also fell deeper and deeper, and finally they were devoured by the Great Elder Su Zechang. But whenever the Great Elder found that Su Luki showed signs of betraying him, he would set out to devour his heart, let Su Luki eat his heart and die painfully. Lord Prince, the slave knows that you must have come to the Day Dynasty for the future of the Yanwang Dynasty. But you alone, weak, if you completely control the Su family, you can add a help out of thin air and complete the grand cause in your mind faster. 9. It's a win-win thing, you don't think about it. To be honest, Zhang Chushuan doesn't have much opinion about Su Luki's daughter, and he doesn't have much contact with him in normal times. Hearing this, he smiled. I'm afraid it's your own win, right? Although there are not many sects in the Day Dynasty, there are many families. A Su family with 463 inverted units is a drop in the bucket for the Day Dynasty, and he will soon be able to support a new top 6-pin family. For this king, the help of the 6-pin family is not much, and it can only play some weak role at certain times. If this king promises you, maybe you will offend the major families that are friendly with the Su family, and when the time comes, they will attack it en masse, what should you do? Lord Prince, slaves don't mean that. Su Luki knew that the only person who could save him now was Zhang Chushuan, and hurriedly said, the slave maid is also for the grand cause of the prince and for the Yanwang dynasty. 35. Now that the slaves have controlled most of the Su family, as long as you promise, they will be able to rise up and completely defeat the Su family. 39. Since you have such strength, why don't you do it yourself? The slaves are weak, and behind them is the matter of the prince, and they don't know it, so they won't take risks. If you promise, you don't need to make a move, and the Su family can be destroyed. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan fell silent. What Su Luki said made some sense, but it was just a top 6 rank family, and at this time, Zhang Chushuan was not put in his eyes. This king can promise you. Quote. Su Luki was immediately overjoyed and excitedly held Zhang Chushuan's big hand. Thank you, Lord Prince, for your kindness. No matter when, the life of the slave is yours. Seeing the slightest flattery in the other party's eyes coming towards him, he withdrew his hands and shook his head helplessly. First, you have never lost to this king, and second, even without you, this king will go to the Su family to take it down. For a moment, Su Luki's jade hand was in the air, and it had not fallen for a long time, and her eyes were even more full of astonishment. It seems that because she relies too much on the life-saving straw in front of her, she behaves a little too much. Getting up and walking towards his room, Zhang Chushuan said, Su Luki, you can go back. Tell them that within 3 days, this king will see that the Su family is in your power, and anyone who disobeys can be killed, and there is no need to worry about the shortage of hands of the new Su family. 5. Ignoring Su Luki, who was still sluggish, Zhang Chushuan's figure gradually disappeared. 3 days flew by, and Zhang Chushuan still waited for Ji Yu Changfeng. Looking at Ji Yu Changfeng, who looked haggard in front of him and was decisively different from Ji Yu Xiao, who was vigorous before, Zhang Chushuan smiled and said, Ji Yu Xiao, have you Ji Yu family thought it through? Senior, the patriarch has already agreed to your request. In the past 3 days, Ji Yu Changfeng did not want to intercede with Zhang Chushuan, but every time he walked to the front of the Tianxiang building, his steps did not obey the call, and he just couldn't take that last step. In desperation, he could only come to see Zhang Chushuan with his father's will. Zhang Chushuan was not too surprised by the result. After all, this is the most cost-effective deal for the Ji Yu family. In the end, the Ji Yu Aee family will eventually find that it is still their Ji Yu family that occupies Zhang Chushuan, the light of the Yanwang dynasty. Very good. Tonight, I will wait for your father in Tianxiang Lu. Senior. At this moment, Zhao Niang half knelt towards Zhang Chushuan and saluted. Miss Su has led most of the members of the Su family to wipe out the Great Elder's lineage, and those who resist are even killed on the spot, and now, the Su family is all under Miss Su's control. 35. On the side, Ji Yu Changfeng's eyes widened even more. In just a few days, Zhao Niang and the others defected to Zhang Chushuan, not to mention, even the Su family Su Luki has a great relationship with him, and they care for the family, and it seems that they have to reconsider their previous decision. Okay. Let Su Luki come over tonight, this king has important orders. Yes. After the young lady retreated, Zhang Chushuan looked at Ji Yu Changfeng, who looked dull. Ji Yu Xiao, what are you thinking? Ah, senior, go back to repay your father next, and you will definitely go to the banquet on time tonight. He, good, I'll wait for your good news. Seeing Ji Yu Chengfeng leaving with a lost soul, Zhang Chushuan shook his head and smiled. The night came as scheduled, and Zhang Chushuan did not hesitate to charter the Tianxiang building tonight, just to wait for Ji Yuni and Su Luqi. Lord Prince, you are. Seeing that there was no one around, Su Luqi sat more restrained, afraid that today was a hangman banquet, and the next moment he would die on the wine table. Ji Yuni, the head of the Ji Yu family, was also cautious, constantly paying attention to Zhang Chushuan's faint expression changes. Come and come. First congratulate the two family owners, from now on, we are our own people. The two hurriedly raised their glasses and touched Zhang Chushuan, but did not dare to drink it. What? Afraid that I will poison the wine? 35. Don't dare, don't dare. Shaking his head hurriedly, Su Luqi even explained. The slave is not strong enough to drink. I am afraid that it will delay the major event that the prince will announce next, so I dare not drink. Her reaction was unpleasant, and Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly. There is indeed something important to order you tonight. The two immediately solemnly listened. The two of you, no matter what method you use, whether it is intimidation, marriage, or temptation, in short, you must gather all the family forces in Tianq City as soon as possible. 35. Lord Prince, I'm afraid this is a little difficult, right? Ji Yuni immediately frowned. Not to mention anything else, the Mo family, the Peng family, and the three top 6 rank families of the Qin family are not something that my Ji Yu family can compete with. 35. The three of them don't bother, you just need to solve the rest of the families. The old man understood. Relieved heavily, Ji Yuni took a sip of wine tremblingly, and suddenly felt extremely spicy, as if all the bitterness and spiciness of the first half of his life were in it. 98%. Chapter 388. Contest to recruit relatives. It's really fantastical. Under the worry of the whole process, Su Luqi and Ji Yuni finished this dinner. In fact, they drank a few sips of wine, and the food was eaten by Zhang Chushuan alone. Comfortably returning to the room, Zhang Chushuan was thinking about the next opportunity. He just asked Ji Yuni what he was doing using the demon beast to cultivate tokens, but the final result surprised him a little. Lord Prince, it's not a secret, these tokens are equivalent to the second life of the elder Ji Yu. It was about the secrets of the 4 major families, and Ji Yuni didn't want outsiders to hear it, and seeing that there was no one else around, he even lowered his voice. Whenever the family elder is close to Shoyuan, but he can't break through, he will incorporate the beast soul in the token into his body, barely supporting. Quote. However, there is a disadvantage to this, that is, these family elders who have beast souls hidden in their bodies will fall into a deep sleep for a long time, and they will not appear until the time of the family's life and death. Because once they wake up, they have no hope of continuing to live. 39. At that time, Zhang Chushuan was also surprised. After all, this method of life extension, he heard for the first time, why not take life extension pills? The elders who chose this path, who hasn't taken the life extension pill? A sad look appeared from Ji Yuni's eyes. Or many years later, the old man will also choose this path, just to protect the family before he dies. Zhang Chushuan was non-committal and did not comment too much on this approach. He asked how many such people there were in the Ji Yu family, and the result surprised him a little. There are no less than 100 people who can still wake up, and the Mo family is even more, almost breaking through 300. Thinking of this, Zhang Chushuan felt that he had to change his decision on the Mo family slightly. After all, there were more than 300 true monarchs and strong. Even if he was a Saint Lord level powerhouse, it was impossible for him to resist. In the early morning of the second day, Zhang Chushuan had just arrived on the first floor, and the young lady waited early. Senior, the third princess of the dynasty is holding a contest in Tianq City to recruit relatives. Do you want to participate? A princess holds a contest to recruit relatives. To be honest, Zhang Chushuan was shocked by this matter. Can even the royal family do this? Yes, senior. 35. Nodding slightly, the young lady said slowly. The third princess has learned martial arts since she was a child, and she has reached the age of marriage, but she is not very satisfied with all the candidates proposed by her father. She herself is already a mid-stage cultivator of the divine mansion, and she can be regarded as a strong person, and this time she is even more like looking for a husband who is stronger than herself, which inevitably has the meaning of strengthening the royal family. That's interesting. Nodding thoughtfully, Zhang Chushuan said to the girl, when will the contest be held? 95. At noon today, in the central square of Tianq City. At that time, many young talents of the family will participate. Lead the way. Yes, Senior. When the young lady heard this, she was immediately overjoyed and hurriedly took Zhang Chushuan out. Zhang Chushuan thought that he would leave in the morning, at least before noon, and would be able to reach the central square. But he still underestimated the vastness of Tianq City. When he and Zhao Niang arrived, the central square was already overcrowded. The contest had been going on for a while, and there were many beaten men all over the field, who were receiving the will of the royal doctor. Ji Yu Chengfeng was also in the crowd of onlookers, and when the young lady passed the message, he even squeezed over from the front and said to Zhang Chushuan, "Lord Prince, why are you here? Let's see, to what extent has the third princess's contest gotten to recruit relatives?" Before you arrived, 10 men had stepped forward to challenge, but without exception, all ended in failure. The third princess seems to be dissatisfied, and has already spoken. If no one succeeds in the challenge, she will say that there are no young talents in this great cause dynasty, and she will marry into Zualing Academy. Oh, what a big breath. Zhang Chushuan laughed and suddenly asked, "What are the requirements for the age of young talents for these three princesses?" Slightly stunned, Ji Yu Chengfeng saw that Zhang Chushuan was a young man, and seemed to meet the conditions of the third princess, so he said with a smile, "All young Junjis under the age of 35 who have reached the early stage of the Divine Mansion realm can participate in this contest to recruit relatives. Lord Prince, you are a talent, presumably your age is also in line, it is not as good as." On the side, Su Luqi hid her mouth and smiled. Seeing Zhang Chushuan glaring at her, she had to try her best to hide her smile, but instead she endured it even harder. Lord Prince is over 60 years old. Su Luqi, who really couldn't help but break such a big news to Ji Yu Chengfeng, which made Zhang Chushuan slightly embarrassed. "Ah, that's under recklessness. 0, Ahem. Coughing lightly twice, Zhang Chushuan suddenly said seriously, "This king is old and strong, why can't he participate?" This. For a while, Ji Yu Chengfeng froze in place, not knowing how to answer. Seeing Zhang Chushuan looking towards him, he bowed slightly. "Lord Prince, do you mean? Tell the third princess that the king is going to participate in her contest to recruit relatives, you go and see, when the king will play." Quote exclamation mark. 35. Leaving in ashes, Ji Yu Chengfeng's heart was shocked, but he also had to do what Zhang Chushuan ordered. The royal palace of the Day dynasty. Their king was sitting on a throne, and in front of him were dozens of ministers, kneeling on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. "The third princess is fooling around, why don't you stop it?" 35. The king, please stop being angry. It's not that I can't wait to stop it, it's really the third princess who can't afford to offend. Do you think you can offend the king? Come, pull down the king, behead. The person who spoke was stunned for a moment, and then cried, "King, spare your life." Waiken said the wrong thing, and asked the king to be kind. But he did not have the intention of retracting his order, and looked at the other ministers. "You say, why don't you stop the third princess?" The scene was silent. No one dared to answer the king's question. After all, if one is not good, he will lose his head, and they have not lived enough. HMPH. Seeing this, Wang Sheng snorted coldly. Okay, this king doesn't want to care about this matter, what the third princess wants to do, just let her go. Tell me, what has been the movement of the Yanwang dynasty recently? What are the small moves between Zualing Academy and the Dragon King Hall? The ministers immediately breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly reported. Wang, the Yanwang dynasty is still ruled by Queen Yishi. Everything is normal, but their prince Zhang Chushuan seems to be no longer in the royal city, and his whereabouts are unknown. As for Zhouling Academy and the Dragon King Hall, everything is normal, and there is no small movement. Quote. Hearing this, Wang Sheng immediately frowned. Where did Zhang Chushuan go? Subordinates. The subordinates do not know. Quote. I don't know if you still don't check it. Well, what do you eat? Get out of this king. Can't find out the whereabouts of Zhang Chushuan, and are not allowed to come back. River. 98%. Chapter 389. The ruins of the Four Pins dynasty, the battle of forces. In the central square of Tianq City, the three princesses competed in the ring. Ji Yu Chengfeng trotted back to Zhang Chushuan, and his words were a little surprised. The third princess said that the prince can participate in the competition. Oh, good. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan strode to the ring. Dressed in a uniform, the third princess is equipped with a short knife at the waist, and her hair is all tied behind her head, and her expression is even more proud. Seeing him on stage, the third princess said, Are you the guy who wants the old cow to eat the tender grass? The first sentence choked Zhang Chushuan without knowing how to speak, but the third princess had already set up an offensive posture. Seeing this, Zhang Chushuan shook his head slightly, and his expression was indifferent. As long as you can take my sword, even if you win, how? 35. Oh, the three members of the public are interested. This is her home field, but now, Zhang Chushuan is anti-guest oriented, 463, which makes her unhappy and more curious at the same time. What is the origin of this guy? After thinking for a moment, the third princess agreed, yes. Come on. Gong. The long knife of the blazing sun appeared instantly, and Zhang Chushuan's sword intent flowed around his body, making his clothes windless and automatic. Only at this time did the third princess become slightly solemn, and the guy who can cultivate the sword intent is definitely not bad in his own strength, and his understanding is even better. Chop. With a low sigh, Zhang Chushuan casually swung his knife, and a crescent-shaped knife aura instantly struck towards the third princess. Boom. With a sound like striking iron, the third princess held the short knife at her waist in both hands, constantly resisting this spatula chi. The beautiful face was already red, and her figure was constantly retreating under the pressure of the knife chi, but she never had the idea of giving up. Thundered. Suddenly, a loud noise appeared, and a large amount of smoke and dust appeared in the ring where the competition was to recruit relatives, almost tearing down the entire ring. Zhang Chushuan lightly clicked his toes and fell back into the crowd. It took a long time for the incense to disperse the smoke and dust in the ring, and the figure of the third princess was revealed. At this time, she was covered with scars, and she could see the damage caused to her by the knife chi, but at this moment she still stood in the ring intact and said to Zhang Chushuan, Princess Ben Wan, your sword chi can't help Princess Ben. Quote. Ha. Shaking his head and smiling, Zhang Chushuan didn't say anything more and prepared to leave. Fang Kai was just playful, and he didn't really want to do anything to the third princess. But the third princess didn't seem to want to let Zhang Chushuan leave. Wait, who are you? You are the first person to make Princess Ben so embarrassed so much when the contest has been going on so far. Quote. Just a nameless man. Waving his hand with his back to her, Zhang Chushuan dashingly left. Recently, the Day dynasty seems to be lively, and many cultivators have appeared in Tianq City, and almost all the pills sold in the city have been purchased, and even many magic weapons have been bought by them, causing the local cultivators to cry bitterly. Zhang Chushuan naturally noticed this abnormality, and Zhao Niang was sent out by him to inquire about the news. In the evening, the young lady returned to Tianxianglu, looking tired. There was no time to report to Zhang Chushuan. She drank 2 bowls of water in one go, and only then spoke. Senior, 300 miles outside Tianq City, it is said that the ruins of an ancient 4-pin dynasty have appeared, and many cultivators are ready to enter it, intending to hunt for treasures. 4 Pins Dynasty. Eyebrows raised, Zhang Chushuan was a little surprised. The southern part of the Lingzhou domain is basically controlled by several of their 5-pin dynasties or sect forces, and the 4-rank dynasty appears in the broader Dongshuan region, and they have not yet come into contact with it. Therefore, the ruins of the Yi rank dynasty that appeared in the territory of the Day dynasty would definitely attract countless cultivators to venture forward. Even the young lady was a little moved at this time. Senior, we go. If the seniors don't go, they may be able to gain something by taking a look at the periphery of the ruins with them. Quote. Zhang Chushuan smiled and shook his head. Go, why don't you go? The 4 Pins dynasty, there are many kings and great powers, and there must be many opportunities left. Find out why this 4-rank dynasty disappeared. I haven't found it yet. Please give it a little time in the next time. Quote. Hee, no need, you have to enter the ruins anyway, it doesn't matter if you check it or not. At the same time, several elders of the Day dynasty, Zhouling Academy and the Dragon King Hall gathered in Tianq City and were discussing something. Zuoling Academy and the Dragon King Hall were basically elders who often ran errands outside, but the Day dynasty directly sent a prince to consult with people from the other 2 major forces. Presumably, you have also heard about the promotion of the Yanwang dynasty to the 5th rank. I don't know what to think. The prince of the Day dynasty is full of smiles, but those who know him well know that this prince is a smiling tiger, basically very kind to everyone, but behind the scenes I don't know what will I do to you. The pattern that has not been broken for thousands of years has been broken by this Yanwang dynasty that suddenly appeared, and the 3 of us do not respond. Maybe others still think that in the south of this Lingzhou domain, there is only a 5-product force of his Yanwang dynasty, which is very unfavorable to the rule of me and others. 95. That's right. The elder of Zhouling Academy nodded slightly and said, Nanlingzhou domain, which has been calm for so long, is also time to liven up. The Prince of Day dynasty was very satisfied with the reaction of the two. I heard that a relic of the Sipin dynasty has recently emerged, and many cultivators have rushed over, so it is better for us to take this as a bet and invite the Yanwang dynasty to compete with us, and the one who wins will control the control of this ruin. How? Lord Prince, you are an empty glove white wolf. Shaking his head with a smile, the elder of the Dragon King Hall said, according to custom, ruins or secret realms, etc., no matter where they appear, all cultivators have the right to enter them. If the old man says, play a big game, I don't know, you two dare to agree. Oh, talk about it. The Prince of Day dynasty and Dean Zhou looked at each other and became even more curious. Brushing his snow-white beard, the elder of the Dragon King Hall said, the sudden rise of the Yanwang King 4.4 dynasty has already taken away a lot of our territory. Originally, I just thought that he needed time, and besides, we didn't disdain that place, so we didn't deal with the Yanwang dynasty. But now, the Yanwang dynasty has a faint offensive posture towards our three major forces. It's better for me to send a letter to the Yanwang dynasty and invite him to have a try with us. The content of the competition can be the army within the dynasty, not much, each side can give 500,000. 99. In terms of young talents, only 20 people are needed, which can be regarded as a reserve force representing a dynasty. Quote. As for the elders or the lords of power, it depends on what you mean. And the final reward of the competition is the bottom one, take out 1/5 of the territory and industry, and give it to the other three winners, how about it? 98%. Chapter 390. The role of the Child of Luck subscription required. Play so big. The elder of Zuoling Academy frowned slightly. Isn't this too risky? After all, in this way, there is a possibility of serious damage. Old scholar, thanks to you still a reader, I didn't expect that. How long has the Yanwang dynasty been promoted? In addition to Zhang Chushuan, the strength of the elders or disciples must be uneven, which is a good opportunity for us to return to the Six-Pin dynasty in one fell swoop and even erase the other party. 35. Once the Yanwang dynasty is defeated, he will be swallowed by the rest of the forces without me waiting to make a move. That's a good offer. The Prince of the Day dynasty thought for a moment, then got up and handed over to the two of them. 2. This great matter cannot be the lord of this great matter, and he has to ask the king for instructions. If the two of you have other ideas, you can contact the king and everyone will discuss it together. Oh, good. When the Prince of the Day dynasty left, Dean Zhou looked at the last person. Old fellow, did you plan to do this a long time ago? Humph. Zhang Chushuan, this person, secretly pocketed the water dragon hull under His Royal Highness the Dragon King, and this account has not been calculated with him. Quote. Just then a few of our 5-rank forces have the opportunity to compete, rub his sharp chi well, and collect some interest by the way. 39. No wonder you. Zhang Chushuan did not know that the other 3 major 5-rank forces had united and wanted to give him a dismount. At this time, he was taking Zhao Niang and Ji Yu Changfeng to the dynastic ruins outside Tianq City. Originally, Zhao Niang wanted to take her companions, but Zhang Chushuan let them stay in the Tianxiang building on the grounds of insufficient strength. The distance of 300 miles, for Zhang Chushuan, can only be reached in one step, but with 2 people who have just reached the Divine Mansion realm by his side, he can only take care of their feelings and slow down. Along the way, the cultivators who passed by them did not step down, and they all rushed towards the ruins of the Four Pins dynasty. However, as soon as the incense burned, Zhang Chushuan and the 3 arrived at the entrance of the ruins of the Sipin dynasty. As soon as he found a relatively small number of people to stay, Zhang Chushuan ordered Ji Yu Changfeng, you go around the neighborhood. Ji Yu Changfeng was a little puzzled. There were many people here, although most of them were the peak of Jaden, but there were also many strong people in the Divine Mansion realm, no less than hundreds. He was a little worried about Zhang Chushuan's safety. You won't be in danger, will you? It's okay, just go as the king commands. With a full of doubts, Ji Yu Changfeng still walked towards the periphery of the entrance of the ruins, and along the way, he saw several places that could seize the opportunity once the ruins were opened, but they were already occupied. Ji Yu Changfeng was helpless, so he could only go farther and farther. Unconsciously, he had come to the back of the entrance of the ruins, and after a large circle, there were not many cultivators here, and Ji Yu Changfeng finally stopped. Although Lord Prince wants me to take a look around here, how can there be treasures worth paying attention to around the ruins? Wait for the ruins to open. As soon as the words fell, a strange fragrance instantly entered his nose. Is this the appearance of a spirit fruit? However, before he could continue to explore, more than a dozen cultivators were hurrying over and glaring at him. Boy, we occupy this place, leave quickly. 55. Surrounded by more than a dozen big men, Ji Chengfeng's expression was very ugly, but he still left according to their wishes. No, you must tell the prince that you can't miss this spiritual fruit. Making up his mind, Ji Chengfeng hurriedly went to find Zhang Chushuan, but he and Zhao Niang were missing. Where did they go? Thinking for a moment, Ji Chengfeng was worried that the dozen or so people would find traces of the spirit fruit, gritted his teeth and turned back, intending to observe them secretly. Not long after he left, the figures of Zhang Chushuan and Zhao Niang appeared in place, and Zhao Niang was full of puzzlement. Senior, why don't you see him? 35. He hasn't played to his best yet, so naturally he can't see him. Wait for it, he should surprise us soon. Children of luck should play such a role. Senior, what do you say? 35. Returning to the entrance of the ruins, Ji Chengfeng saw that after the dozen or so cultivators occupied this place, he even roasted wild game, and the aroma of roasted meat continued to come out, and he was relieved. Fortunately, this meat aroma masks the taste of the spirit fruit, and they won't find it for the time being. Just secretly observing from a distance, Ji Chengfeng waited quietly, praying for them to leave as soon as possible. In the evening, these dozen or so cultivators had eaten and drunk enough, and they all got up in unison. Go away, go to the front and occupy a good position. Hey, boss, that kid has been near us during the day, isn't it? No, he can't turn over any storms by himself, and I'm just borrowing this place. So, this group of people rubbed and left alone, and Ji Chengfeng couldn't wait to rush over, dispersing the smell of roast meat around, and suddenly, the familiar fragrance appeared. Fortunately, they didn't find out. Thundered. At this moment, under Ji Chengfeng's feet, the earth flew over, and he hurriedly dodged, but he saw a demon beast with a fruit on its head, glaring at him. The movement here attracted those cultivators who had originally left, and Ji Chengfeng directly reached out to pick the fruit on the top of the monster beast's head, and ran away. Roar! The demon beast was enraged by his actions and chased after it without thinking about it. Looking at the direction, he met with the dozen or so cultivators. 463 borrowed and borrowed. Ji Chengfeng flashed past them, and before he could react, he had disappeared without a trace, and the demon beast that had been picked from the fruit on its head rushed towards them desperately. Because it remembers the breath of these people. Damn, we're being tricked. The boss of them quickly reacted, turned around and chased after Ji Chengfeng. So, this funny scene appeared near the ruins. Ji Chengfeng took the lead, the wind was blowing under his feet, and behind him were more than a dozen panicked cultivators, and behind them, there was even an angry demon beast, rushing wildly. What? Who attracted the monster beast? More than a dozen people. Even a demon beast can't be solved. I really don't know what to eat. Oh, the wind of the world is declining. All kinds of sighing voices came out, making these people even more angry. Boy, it's better to pray that we don't catch you. 35. Ji Chengfeng, who wanted to find Zhang Chushuan's help, still did not find the other party's figure, and his heart could not help but become more anxious. Lord Prince, where are you? Come out quickly. Circling around the ruins, even the speed of the demon beast decreased, but those cultivators behind Ji Chengfeng chased after them as if they had taken stimulants. If you go out separately, you can't stop this kid if you don't believe it. 98%. Chapter 391 is just so called, Wealth and Danger, subscription required. Boy, you keep running, why don't you run? A quarter of an hour passed, and Ji Chengfeng was blocked at the entrance of the ruins, unable to advance or retreat. That demon beast was bombarded and killed by more than a dozen cultivators, and there was not even scum left at this moment. Looking at each other with a solemn expression, Ji Chengfeng said, I have never offended you in Sha, why have you been chasing Sha? 39. Not offended. One of the leaders smiled very lewdly. You let out the monster beast without saying, and brought trouble to our brothers. You said that you did not offend us. Boy, if you know each other, hand over the fruit in your hand, otherwise, don't blame our brothers for being unkind. Hearing this, Ji Chengfeng hurriedly put the peculiar fruit he had been holding in his hand into the storage bag, and said in a deep voice, I am the young master of the Ji family in Tianq City, you better weigh it. Seeing that there was no Zhang Chushuan nearby, Ji Chengfeng was helpless, so he had to move out of his family's name. What is the status of the Ji family in Tianq City? You should know it in your hearts. If you want to deal with young Master Ben, you will definitely have no good fruit to eat. 5. Whoosh. Who knows that you are the young master of the GU family? I'm just killing an insignificant cultivator, and when I come out of the ruins, the sky is high and the birds fly. Who knows that we killed you? Boy, don't take your identity in Tianq City seriously. With that, the leader walked towards Ji Changfang. The figure quietly retreated, and Ji Changfang was about to say something, when suddenly a huge noise erupted behind him, and then, dozens of spatial cracks suddenly appeared, directly involving them. Oops, I was run away by this kid. They were stunned for a moment, and then quickly rushed into the spatial crack. The nearby cultivators instantly understood that this was the entrance to the ruins, and they could successfully reach it as long as they entered. So, they scrambled to rush into the spatial crack. Suddenly, a miserable scream came out, and the cultivator who had just rushed into one of the spatial cracks instantly turned into a blood mist and hit the face of the cultivator behind him. Not good. Not every spatial crack can be successfully entered. Everyone be careful. Realizing this, the cultivators retreated one after another, and hurriedly rushed towards the spatial crack that Ji Changfang and the others entered, and it was slowly disappearing at this moment. When a few more people entered, this spatial crack snapped and disappeared. Damn, let them get ahead. The first spatial rift was almost exactly 30 people, as if the ruins were deliberately controlling the number of people who entered it. You, pass. A strong man at the peak of the Divine Mansion realm glanced at the people beside him, and said to one of the cultivators who had turned a knot, go and try which spatial crack is safe. 99. Before, Senior, the Jaden cultivator was so frightened that he was about to flee, but he was grabbed by the other party and thrown towards one of the spatial cracks. Help, I don't want to die yet. Screaming in horror, this Jaden Xiaoshu closed his eyes and prepared for death. For a long time, he could still feel his own presence, so he carefully opened his eyes, and in front of him was a rapidly retreating light, strange light. After the shock, he instantly burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, I'm not dead, this spatial crack is safe, ha ha ha. The Divine Mansion realm powerhouse outside had long known that it was even closer, and the remaining 20 or so cultivators followed one after another, and almost instantly, the spatial crack closed. There was another silence on the scene. Cultivating below the Divine Mansion realm, and even quietly moving away from the crowd, they didn't want to be used as test objects. At this time, the figures of Zhang Chushuan and the young lady appeared, causing the faces of the surrounding cultivators to change drastically, and they hurriedly moved away. Is it that scary? Touching his nose, Zhang Chushuan walked straight towards one of the spatial cracks. The young lady followed behind, her heart already pounding. Senior, don't you find someone to test it? Looking for whom? You, the young lady who wanted to cry without tears hurriedly shook her head. It's still a little useful to seniors in the next. I believe seniors won't let me take risks. Without speaking, Zhang Chushuan stepped into the spatial crack, and the cultivators suddenly stared. Quote! In the next second, no accident came, and the cultivators were immediately overjoyed and hurriedly rushed over. Boom boom. But one after another giant palms came out from the spatial cracks, and Zhang Chushuan's indifferent voice came out of it. If anyone wants to die, he can come in, and the king is waiting inside. It's too arrogant. Everyone is a cultivator. Why are they so stingy? That is, this ruin is not their family. Why is it so domineering? If you go up together, you can't rush over. But these cultivators were only shouting, and they didn't really do anything, because Zhang Chushuan was in the spatial crack and could attack the outside world, which was strange. There are true monarchs and strong people who can't sit still, and they began to grab Jaden Xiaoshu and help them tempt. Not long ago, only a group of Jaden Xiaoshu at the entrance of the ruins were stunned and did not dare to step forward. In the field, except for the spatial crack that Zhang Chushuan and the two passed, there were 3 left, and no one tried it. As for those that are dangerous, they have been remembered by everyone. Fight, the so-called wealth is in danger. It's a big deal to die, and 18 years later he is a good man. The space passage is very unstable, and the young lady can see countless stars falling around, and there are even bursts of space storms blowing, destroying several nearby channels. She subconsciously leaned towards Zhang Chushuan and whispered, Senior, how long do you have to get out of here? Right now, in the spatial rift, there are countless possible crises. If you are not careful, you will be lost in the spatial rift. Do not know the direction, do not know the time, do not know everything. Not only that, if you are not lost in the spatial rift, you may also suffer from a space storm or turbulence. No matter which one you encounter, it is basically a dead end. That's why the girl is so nervous. After about a burst of incense, a light appeared in front of Zhang Chushuan and the two, and it instantly magnified. In the next second, the feeling of weightlessness disappeared, and the two successfully landed. Looking at several corpses in front of him, as well as some blood mist, Zhang Chushuan frowned slightly, and the young lady trembled even more and said, "Senior, they came here and killed each other." "No, they were killed by danger in the space passage, but the corpse got out of luck." Is it so dangerous? So what about when we go back?" "Hee, don't worry, there is the king in clothes." Shaking his head and smiling, Zhang Chushuan looked around, and then said, "Let's go. See what surprises await us in this huge ruin." Quote. 99%. Chapter 392. Endless Abyss, Dynasty Old Dragon, subscription required. This ruin is very large and has its own space, and it currently seems to be similar to the scale of Tianq City. Years of erosion have caused most of the buildings in this place to collapse, and they are covered with vines, occasionally touched by beasts, but they are only mortal beasts, and they cannot be regarded as monsters. Walking on the wide avenue, Zhang Chushuan looked at the crumbling buildings on both sides and sighed in his heart. If he hadn't obtained the system, I'm afraid the Zhang family would have suffered a catastrophe long ago, and it would be impossible to leave even a piece of rubble at this moment, right? Fortunately, it is only if, now, he has established a powerful family and dynasty and dominated one side. Gathering his thoughts, Zhang Chushuan rushed straight towards the center of the ruins, where the royal palace was located. After all, although these houses are seriously damaged, it is vaguely obvious that this dynasty seems to have disappeared overnight, and the living items in them have remained in their original appearance. Behind him, from time to time, there were more than 2 Jaden cultivators who came in, but they were only looking for auction houses or shops selling elixir magic weapons, and as for the royal palace in the center, they definitely did not dare to go. When Zhang Chushuan and Zhao Niang came to the inner city wall, there were not many people left. This place may be the reason for the protection of the large array, but the preservation is relatively complete. The city wall has not been destroyed as it was then, and looking inside, you can even see the Golden Palace, which is very magnificent. In the meantime, many true Monarch 463 jumped on the roof and headed towards the most central palace. Zhang Chushuan glanced at the young lady beside him and said, "Look at it." Whoosh! Suddenly, he directly pulled the shoulders of the young lady, and his figure soared into the sky, and he instantly came to the innermost palace of the palace. Library cabinet. Looking at the collection of books full of cabinets in front of her, the young lady instantly became excited and frantically collected the books in it. Zhang Chushuan did not raid vigorously. Now that here the Zhang family's exercises are enough, it is of little use to bring them back. Ideographic comma. "Senior, don't you want that?" Seeing that Zhang Chushuan was unmoved, the young lady was a little embarrassed and hurriedly stopped. "You take yours, even if you don't need it. After you go out and hand it over to the auction house, you can earn a lot of spirit stones. Don't worry about me." I'm welcome, senior." Shaking his head, Zhang Chushuan ignored the other party and walked straight towards the deepest part of the library cabinet. The library cabinet of the palace is generally very large, and there are many superb exercises, but Zhang Chushuan also knows that in the library cabinet, there is usually a mysterious box containing the most precious things. Through the former web writer, how could he not understand the routine? Soon after, he came to the front of the library cabinet. On a huge desk table, full of books, on the side, there was a seal, on which the bright red clay was still eroded by time. On the table, a cup of tea was still steaming, and it seemed that the owner of this room had not left for long. Seeing this, Zhang Chushuan hurriedly stepped forward and took the seal in his hand. Frowning slightly, he couldn't help shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Unexpectedly, someone came one step ahead of this king and took away the most precious treasure among them. It's a pity. Senior, I'm okay. At the same time, the young lady who was filled with 5 storage bags of books came behind Zhang Chushuan and said, "There is no time to sift through them, so I will pack some of them all, and then divide them after they go out." "Let's go." Nodding, Zhang Chushuan led her towards the outside of the library cabinet. During the period, a monk passed by the two, and seeing that they were empty-handed, they didn't say anything and rushed straight in. The palace was very large, and the two couldn't tell the arrangement, so they had to walk from place to place. After being swept into the spatial crack, Ji Chengfeng found that he had come to the depths of the ruins, as if it was underground. It was built as an underground palace with countless frescoes telling the story of the powerful dynasty. He also gradually sorted out the history of this dynasty from the very beginning of a person to such a powerful one. At first, the king of this dynasty was only one of thousands of monks, and as a young man, he witnessed the war in his country and vowed to build a promised land where its inhabitants could live and work in peace. The rest is when he works hard to cultivate, fights everywhere, and then becomes a king. Together with his friends, he established this powerful dynasty to protect one side, but the good times did not last long, and the more powerful dynasties around him extended their evil tentacles to them and launched an invasion. The king and his army rebelled, fighting to the end, leaving only him and a general. The general wanted to welcome him back to the palace to heal his wounds, but the king refused and left alone to destroy the last threatening enemy, but he himself was exhausted and died. The general found the king, buried him in a huge mountain range, and transformed one of the mountains into a coffin, which was worshipped every year. If Zhang Chushuan was here, he would definitely find that this king was the one he met in the soul-broken mountain range, and it turned out that he was the owner of the ruins of this dynasty. Later, the general assisted the new king, rebuilding his homeland while defending the dynasty, leading the dynasty to prosperity. But prosperity must decline, and there was a situation of war in the past, and I don't know how many generations of kings have changed at this time. Just as the last king was about to flee with his cronies, a huge beam of light descended from the sky, enveloping the royal city, and everyone in it disappeared in an instant. Could it be the reason for the collapse of the dynasty? But who left these murals? Ji Chengfeng was very puzzled, so he had to continue to walk forward, hoping to get more clues. Roar! Suddenly, a voice came from deep underground, and he hurriedly stopped and looked around. In the depths of the underground palace, there is a large pond that should contain a lot of water, but it has completely dried up at this time, and a staircase through which one person passes is revealed below. The sound came from below. Ji Chengfeng hesitated for a moment, but still walked over. The passage is long and covered with moss, making it slippery to walk up. Suddenly there was a sudden enlightenment in front of him. Ji Chengfeng was like a tiny ant, standing at the mouth of the cave. In front of him, there was a huge and bottomless abyss. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and he subconsciously retreated, and a huge dragon head and two lantern-like ears and eyes appeared in front of him, staring at him. Knock knock. Swallowing his saliva, Ji Chengfeng's expression was full of panic. In this place, there is actually a dragon. Young man, how did you get here? The old voice came from the dragon's mouth. Looking at his long gray and white whiskers flying, Ji Chengfeng said nervously, I inadvertently entered this place, disturbed the seniors, and asked the seniors to be strange, so I left. Wait, the footsteps that had just been raised paused in the air, and Ji Chengfeng only heard the dragon say, how many years have passed? 99%. Chapter 393 is a little painful later, you bear with it. Senior, I don't know. With his back to the dragon, Ji Chengfeng said, it seems that tens of thousands of years have passed. After all, I came here to explore the ruins in Sha, but I didn't want to disturb Senior Qing Shu. Quote. It's been so long. The dragon's eyes showed a look of remembrance, staring at Ji Chengfeng's back nonstop, making his sweat hair stand on end, and he didn't know what to do. And turn around. Trembling and Wei Wei got to turn around. Ji Chengfeng saw that the dragon's nose was about to reach him, and he was even more frightened and took a few steps back, but was pulled by the other party's long whiskers. The fiery snort sprayed on his body, making him feel like he was about to melt. Well, it's not bad. Nodding slightly, the dragon loosened his long beard and said to him, the old man can still meet humans in his lifetime, but it is also a wish. The old man asked you, can you be willing to accept inheritance? This sudden change stunned Ji Chengfeng. The dragon slowly said his identity. The old man was born from the dragon vein of the dynasty and has guarded the dynasty for many years. But back then, before he died, that man saw me for the last time and said that no matter what happened to the dynasty, he must not appear and avoid breaking the luck of the dynasty. 35. The old man was just a young dragon at the time, and he didn't understand what was happening, but he waited here as he was told. Unexpectedly, this is tens of thousands of years, and even the dynasty of that year no longer exists. The old man is also about to die, but fortunately, your appearance can make the old man fulfill the promise of the year. Young man, would you like to? Senior, Ji Chengfeng was so confused at this time that he didn't know how to answer the other party's words. The family is already a subordinate of Zhang Chushuan. If he accepts the inheritance of this dragon, wouldn't it be a betrayal? Well, whether you like it or not, the old man has no more time to wait for the next person. Suddenly, Ji Yu Chengfeng involuntarily flew up and landed on top of the dragon's head. He subconsciously looked down, but saw that the dragon's body was as long as 1,000 feet, and he couldn't see the end clearly. Young man, it's a little painful for a while, you can bear with it. The palace is huge, and Zhang Chushuan has also harvested some elixirs and heavenly treasures along the way, but after years of erosion, they basically have no effect. But he has 100-fold increase, and he believes that it will not be difficult to bring these resources back to life. The ancestral land of the dynasty has appeared, everyone hurry up. The outside world became turbulent, and Zhang Chushuan and the girl heard the movement and followed curiously. In fact, except for some exercises and resources left in the palace, there is basically nothing in the huge ruins. After all, it has been so long, even if there is, it will turn into dust. But the ancestral land has always been a mysterious existence of various forces, and they can often exist for countless years, among which there are more valuable things. The ruins of this dynasty are about 500 miles behind the royal city, deep in the mountains and old forests, and integrated with the surroundings. When Zhang Chushuan arrived, many monks had already entered the place, and the nearby grass and trees were broken. The ancestral land is very quiet, almost filled with wild grass and trees. Fortunately, someone in front of him opened the way, saving Zhang Chushuan a lot of trouble. There is a medicine garden in the secret realm, in which many elixirs grow, and after 10,000 years, these elixirs have even grown everywhere, and many elixirs have successfully evolved. But this medicine garden was swept away by the monks who came, and even many elixirs were trampled on the ground. The little girl snorted in chagrin. These guys don't know to cherish a little. In the deepest part of the palace, at this time, a heart that had been silent for an unknown number of years suddenly beat slowly, and at the entrance of the spatial crack, the corpse disappeared instantly. Ah! With a painful roar from his mouth, Ji Yu Chengfeng felt that his whole person was about to be torn apart. He was hastily prepared to endure the pain, but he did not expect it to be so painful. The dragon ball, which was bigger than a fist, tore open his chest, took the place of his heart, and merged into his body. In an instant, countless violent breaths rushed around in his body, destroying the meridians and constantly repairing them. This caused Ji Yu Chengfeng to suffer immensely, as if his body had been broken and reorganized again. It took 3 hours for the feeling of tearing to slowly disappear, but Ji Yu Chengfeng felt that this body no longer belonged to him. The meridians were still faintly painful, but he was pleasantly surprised to find that the strength and width of the meridians had increased a lot, and he had also come to the peak of the divine mansion realm in one step, and he was only one step away from successfully achieving the power of the Holy Lord. Zero asking for flowers. Young man, don't be too ambitious, this is only the effect of the initial fusion of Dragon Ball. When you fully digest it, it will return to its original state. Quote. As if seeing what Ji Yu Chengfeng was thinking, the dragon couldn't help but shake his head. Okay, you can leave, don't show it before you fully integrate with the Dragon Ball, to avoid a calamity. Watching the dragon's body disappear little by little, Ji Yu Chengfeng bowed to it and said in a deep voice, Senior, in the next meeting, with the last hope of the dynasty, I will live. He. The old man died without regret. When the last bit of light disappeared and the abyss in front of him completely darkened, Ji Yu Chengfeng was silent for a moment before turning and leaving. In the ancestral land of the dynasty, Zhang Chushuan and Zhao Niang walked forward together, and found that all the cultivators in front of them had stopped, but the feverish look in their eyes was undisguised. The young lady instantly understood the meaning in Zhang Chushuan's eyes, walked to the crowd and asked, Dao Yu, why did you stop? Fengkei's medicine garden is just used to hide people's ears, the real medicine garden is here, and there is also an immortal spring. But there are already several Taoists who have fallen in the medicine garden, and I am trying to figure it out. This cultivator answered the young lady's question almost subconsciously, but after seeing that the other party was only in the early stage of the divine mansion realm, he suddenly smiled. Taoist, there are countless opportunities in this medicine garden, so you might as well help the old man. 35. Snap. Stopping this person's arm, Zhang Chushuan made a cold face. You dare to move the king's people. The monk was stunned, thinking that he had heard this voice not long ago, but he couldn't remember who it was. Quote. Flicking his sleeve hard, the monk didn't have time to say anything, and his figure flew out upside down and fell into the medicine garden. In the blink of an eye, his body quickly dried up, and the elixir in the garden was nourished, and he trembled. This man-eating medicine garden. Seeing this, the young lady was even more afraid for a while, and thanked Zhang Chushuan, "Thank you, senior." Looking at the medicine garden in front of him, Zhang Chushuan frowned tightly, not knowing how to start. If this place was the territory of the Yanwang dynasty, he could enter it with an invincible posture. Throwing a stone in, Zhang Chushuan was about to look at the results, but suddenly found that 7 colors of light appeared around him, and everyone noticed that great pressure came instantly. What's going on? River. 99%. Chapter 394. 7-colored divine light, mysterious medicine garden, subscription required. Boom. As the 7-colored light continued to appear, 8 huge stone pillars suddenly rose from around the medicine garden. Some monks wanted to rush out, but they were stopped by an invisible barrier. At this moment, everyone's faces changed, not knowing what would happen next. "Boy, it's you who activated the formation here, so that we can't get out. How to pay?" Soon, a monk hit Zhang Chushuan with the idea. Several cultivators in the middle of the divine mansion realm surrounded him, their faces full of anger. "Get out." But Zhang Chushuan just spit out a word of mantra and did not put them in his eyes at all. Seeing this, these cultivators became even more angry, and they all sacrificed their magic weapons to Zhang Chushuan. In an instant, he kicked and flew a few people, and before the rest of the people could see clearly, he had already returned to his original place and said coldly, "If you don't want to die, stay away from the king." 4, 6, 7, for a while, everyone in the field was silent and carefully distanced themselves from him. Zhang Chushuan paced around the medicine garden, thinking slowly about the direction he might enter. For a long time, he suddenly looked at the cultivator who was angry at him before, and said indifferently, "You, go in and take a look." Before, "Senior, I don't know Tarzan, and still please also ask the seniors to be kind." Just making a questioning voice, the cultivator in the middle of the divine mansion realm instantly looked like a mourner, trembling and walking towards the medicine garden. Unable to lift his foot to enter, even Zhang Chushuan was anxious for him when he saw it. "Come in, you." 39. Stretching out his hand, the cultivator instantly rushed into the medicine garden, and suddenly cried, "Ooh." But there was silence all around, and he could feel that he was still alive, and suddenly looked around cautiously. Suddenly, he looked around and let out a big breath after finding that he was fine. Zhang Chushuan raised his foot and walked over when the other party entered the medicine garden. Buzz one by one. There seemed to be an invisible shackle, which instantly pressed on him, and the huge pressure made it difficult for him to move an inch. Frowning slightly, Zhang Chushuan operates spiritual power, and the pressure on the whole body is much smaller, but it is also difficult to practice. 1 step, 2 steps, a full half an hour, he only took 6 steps forward, but the monk who was pushed by him was still standing in place, unable to advance or retreat. This medicine garden is really a bit peculiar, and the pressure is so huge, I don't know if swallowing double pupils can solve this matter. His eyes suddenly became pitch black, like a dim starry sky, and a suction force erupted from his eyes. But there was silence all around, and Zhang Chushuan seemed to have done useless work, but he couldn't ban the medicine garden. Seeing this, he could only shake his head helplessly and move forward steadily. After hesitating, several cultivators behind him also hesitated, followed Zhang Chushuan, and followed each other's footsteps, but they were still like the monks who were pushed in, unable to move. "It's strange, why can he walk in it? It's simple, but it doesn't seem to use any strength, why can't I?" Everyone was puzzled in their hearts, and some ill-intentioned eyes even fell on the young lady. But thinking of Zhang Chushuan's domineering behavior, these monks eventually dismissed the idea. Bang! Suddenly, a cultivator could not withstand the huge pressure, and just after lifting one foot, he turned into blood mist with a bang and sprayed the faces of the people around him. Not good. For a moment, the mind was confused, and it was like shooting behind him, and the thumping sound continued to sound, and there were only 1 or 2 people who could hold on. For the rest of their lives, they no longer dare to mess around at this moment, do not think about other things, just stand in place, in a dilemma. Zhang Chushuan ignored them and walked quietly in the medicine garden. Most of the elixirs in the courtyard had already died, shattered when touched, and eventually turned into dust. This prohibition is specifically for people, no wonder there is nothing to do with the elixir. Knowing this, Zhang Chushuan continued to move forward, because from time to time there was a gurgling sound in his ears, like a stream of water. Suddenly, the sky and earth changed, and a light rain fell in the air, and everyone looked up, but they saw a graceful young man, who instantly came to the medicine garden, and there seemed to be coercion on his body, which made them subconsciously retreat. Zhang Chushuan also felt this, looked back, saw that it was Ji Yu Changfeng, and raised his eyebrows slightly. Ji Yu Xiao, you finally appeared. Senior, don't make fun of me. With a bitter smile, Ji Yu Changfeng was about to follow in Zhang Chushuan's footsteps, but he heard the other party say, you'd better not come in, there is huge pressure in it. See that layer of blood on the ground? It's all left behind after Zhenjin's death. Frowning slightly, he was about to try it, but he felt several strong breaths appear behind him. Not only him, but the rest of the cultivators looked sideways to check on the comer. Ha ha ha, I didn't bother to come here. I heard that there is news of the immortal spring here, but I didn't expect it to be true. That's right, the old man has already felt the strong breath of life, and this trip is not worthwhile. Old fellow, don't delay, hurry up and collect the immortal spring, and then go back to retreat. 5 old men with different costumes appeared at the entrance of the medicine garden in an instant, and Ji Yu Chengfeng Zhaoniang and the others just glanced at it, and they felt that endless coercion came from them. Just glanced at the nearby cultivators, and one of the old men said, this place is taken over by me and others, you little dolls, where did you come from? Go back, don't force the old man to do it. Leave quickly, otherwise I won't be welcome. The 5 old men suddenly erupted with the aura of the peak of the divine mansion realm and the early stage of the distraction realm, although they had the feeling of being old, but it was not something that everyone present could resist. The Holy Lord is strong. How did they come out? The King of the Day dynasty is the power of the late Saint Lord level, and everyone has heard of it, but how many Saint Lord level powerhouses are still under him is not something they can speculate. Unexpectedly, the person who entered saw the 2 of them at once. As for the other 3 old men, they have also reached the peak of the divine mansion realm, and they are only 1 step away from stepping into the 4.4 divine realm. But without exception, they all exuded a thick twilight aura, and the nearby cultivators could feel that they did not have much time. Boy, get out of the way. 35. Seeing Ji Yu Chengfeng blocking in front of him, one of the holy masters frowned mightily and said, didn't you hear? 35. Hearing this, Ji Yu Chengfeng cast an inquiring gaze at Zhang Chushuan, and seeing that the other party nodded slightly, he didn't say a word, and sideways let the 5 old men pass. Humph. A group of milky brats who have not dried up run here to fool around, and they don't know how to write dead words. Quote. Although the words were difficult to hear, everyone felt a strong sense of envy and jealousy from them, and for a while, the mood was much better. After all, in addition to cultivation, they are much younger than these 5 old men, and there will be time in the future, but they have already half a foot in the soil. 99%. Chapter 395 Dead Elixir, Immortal Spring. Subscription required. The 5 old men walked into the medicine garden together, but their figures suddenly stopped in place. His face changed slightly, and the Holy Lord who opened his mouth showed a look of surprise, and then said with a smile, no wonder you little guys don't dare to come in, it turns out to be here. 35. Boom. One by one. In an instant, the coercion of the Holy Lord in the early stage broke out on his body, and the pressure around his body suddenly loosened, and he walked forward smoothly, but like Zhang Chushuan, his steps were slow, and it took almost 10 minutes to move a step. The other 4 did so, but moved forward unharmed. In the rear, Ji Yu Chengfeng also followed after 2 hours. In the medicine garden, except for the 7 of them, only the original cultivator stood in place, unable to move. Who can save me? It was almost difficult to feel the passage of time in the ruins, and the cultivators who did not dare to enter the medicine garden did not leave. They wanted to see if these 6 people could succeed. Walking in the front, Zhang Chushuan actually didn't care too much about the pressure around him, but was thinking about how he could take away the immortal spring inside. He could already see that pool of spring water, and there was an unknown elixir growing next to the spring, only this O4 plant, as if absorbing all the aura and nutrients around him. Around it, there are the remains of some dead elixirs. Boy, get out of the way. The sudden voice behind him made Zhang Chushuan's brows furrow slightly. This saint is an elder of the Day dynasty, golden immortal, obediently get out of the way. Slowly turning his head, not far behind Zhang Chushuan were old faces, and the one at the front continued. You can come here, it shows that you also have some skills. The old man does not want to let his back die, but if you don't know what to do, don't blame the old man for not being polite. Shaking his head, Zhang Chushuan ignored the other party. After all, in this case, it is very difficult to even walk, let alone make a move. It doesn't hurt to let them say goodbye. Seeing that he ignored himself, Jin Immortal was even more furious. Good, good, the old man has not met a junior like you who does not know whether to live or die for many years. Don't worry, when you walk out of the medicine garden, the old man will definitely let you live or die. Old thing, are you endless? Zhang Chushuan couldn't hold back anymore and snorted angrily. That is, a guy who relies on the old and sells the old, what is there to show off? It's time to roll, don't twitter. Quote. You. Good, good, you're dead, old man swears. 35. Jin Immortal was angry, and the other 4 old men also glared at Zhang Chushuan. If it weren't for the prohibition in the medicine garden, they would probably have rushed to the top. Outside the medicine garden, Zhao Niang saw these old guys so arrogant, and she was angry for Zhang Chushuan. She saw a gravel not far from her feet, and she immediately had a plan. Whoosh one by one. Who? The 2 voices sounded almost at the same time. Jin Immortal touched his head and looked back at everyone, but everyone looked innocent and understood why he was angry. Good, good, old man remembers you. The cultivators immediately breathed a sigh of relief, but they also cried bitterly. Zhang Chushuan's strength, they have seen it. Zhao Niang dares to do this. Naturally there is such a backer as him, to keep his own safety. Then Ji Yu Chengfeng may be because of his cultivation at the peak of the Divine Mansion realm, and he is not very afraid of them. On the contrary, their group of cultivators of the Divine Mansion realm, although they have families behind them as backers, they are all under the rule of the Day dynasty, and they can't afford to turn over any waves. Bone knock. Suddenly, something similar to a stone rolled at Qin Hao's feet. He was slightly stunned, and then slowly bent down, about to take the other party into his pocket. But with another whiz, the stone suddenly rolled forward, as if spiritually. Interesting. 95. Smiling and nodding, Zhang Chushuan was not in a hurry for a while, but the 5-day dynasty elders behind him were suddenly shocked when they saw it. Jin Immortal even spoke. Heavenly Lingzi, I didn't expect that such spiritual objects could be bred here. Ha ha ha, now the old man is going to make a big profit. Elder, let's hurry up, otherwise we will lose a lot by that kid. Jin Hong beside him showed an anxious look in his eyes. He was just the peak cultivator of the Divine Mansion realm. If it weren't for the 2 Saint Lord seniors in the team to help them share some of the pressure, I am afraid that he would not be able to persist now. When Jin Xiao heard this, he nodded slightly. It's time to speed up. If he carried 1,000 pounds on his shoulders, the 6 people walked slowly in the medicine garden, and Ji Yu Chengfeng even unknowingly only lagged behind the 5 people of Jin Immortal, and he was about to catch up. At the entrance of the medicine garden, the monks either sat or lay down, knowing that the matter could not end for a while, so they waited with peace of mind. Perhaps, when they take away the most valuable treasure in the medicine garden, the ban can be lifted, and they can also drink some soup by the way. Time passed, and I don't know how long it took for Zhang Chushuan to finally come to the spring. The milky white spring water is slowly floating in the pool, occasionally revealing the sand below. But even when he arrived here, the pressure on his body had not yet disappeared. Zhang Chushuan was about to bend down to take out the immortal spring, and his shoulder was suddenly held by a dry palm. Boy, the immortal spring is just like this. The old man is still a little bit insufficient. You step aside. Get out. With a shake of his shoulders, a powerful counter-shock force erupted from Zhang Chushuan's body, and Jin Immortal was instantly shocked back a few steps, even lagging behind Ji Yu Chengfeng. Boy, you are ruthless. The old man will not kill you. Swear not to be a man. But Zhang Chushuan ignored the other party, and with the force of his feet, his body fell into the fountain of immortality. Fortunately, there is not much water in this spring, and the place where it falls 467 feet is soft sand and gravel. Taking out a jade bottle, he was ready to collect it. Almost. After estimating the capacity of the jade bottle, Zhang Chushuan poured out a little after closing his hand, but found that the milky white immortal spring became like clear water, and it was even more lifeless, no different from ordinary spring water. Not far away, when Jin Hong saw this, he immediately burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect it. The immortal spring needs to be taken immediately. No matter what container is used to hold it, it will only become ordinary spring water in the end. 5. A guy who doesn't even understand basic common sense, and dares to touch the immortal spring, is simply a big joke. But in the next second, Jin Hong couldn't laugh, because he saw Zhang Chushuan pouring all the immortal spring water from the jade bottle to the ground. Violent heavenly things, violent heavenly things. Jin Hong and the others had a flesh pain, but Zhang Chushuan smiled at this time. Oh. Thank you for reminding me that I wasted this bottle of immortal spring. But then, I won't do the same thing. 99. Reaching out to hold the immortal spring, Zhang Chushuan drank it in one gulp, and suddenly felt that vitality burst out, and even the tired body instantly became relaxed, and the pressure exerted on the body disappeared in an instant. He was slightly stunned, and then laughed. Ji Yu Xiao, come and come, I'll help you drink this immortal spring, the taste is indeed very good, don't waste it. 100%. Chapter 396 continues to be arrogant, magical sand. In the stunned eyes of everyone, Zhang Chushuan easily jumped from the pool and came to Ji Yu Changfeng. The outstretched palm suddenly stopped, and Zhang Chushuan turned back to Jin Hong at the front, and said with a smile, "Old thing, weren't you very arrogant just now? Rest assured, you will continue to be arrogant." Saying nothing, no matter what everyone thought, Zhang Chushuan picked up Jin Hong and walked outside the medicine garden. "Boy, what do you want to do?" Jin Hong's face changed drastically, wanting to struggle but finding that he was moving very slowly. Zhang Chushuan easily stopped his palms. "What for? What did you guys want to do? What does this king want to do?" With a bigger smile on his face, Zhang Chushuan walked to the door of the medicine garden, suddenly stopped, and seemed to mutter, "No, send you back, maybe wait for me at the door, or send you back to the medicine garden, you have to find a good place." 99. Stopping and walking in the medicine garden, Zhang Chushuan finally placed Jin Hong in the middle of the entrance of the medicine garden and the immortal spring. "If you want to quit, it will take at least several hours, but when you come here, the immortal spring is almost within reach, and ordinary people are definitely reluctant to give up." Clapped his hands, Zhang Chushuan concocted the remaining 4 people in the same way, piling them together like stacked arhats. "Old fellows, enjoy yourself." 35. After saying that, ignoring their scolding, Zhang Chushuan first moved Ji Yu Changfeng to the immortal spring, and when he was full, he signaled him to bring the girl in. At this time, everyone understood that as long as they drank the immortal spring, they could come and go freely in this medicine garden, and for a while, the eyes of the cultivators outside the medicine garden were full of envy. "Big guy, can you hug me?" When Zhang Chushuan heard this, he couldn't cry or laugh. When the young lady also drank enough of the immortal spring, the spring water did not seem to disappear much. Seeing this, he faced the cultivator outside and said with a smile, "It's too difficult to hug it, this king can't do such a thing." However, when everyone was lost, he spoke again, "But as long as you can pay enough price, you can agree to your request." 35. The old man is willing to pay you 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. Quote. All the things on my body can be taken away, just ask for that immortal spring. And for a time, the entrance of the medicine garden was as lively as a vegetable market, and the monk who was trapped in the medicine garden shouted, "Big guy, as long as you can drink the immortal spring, no matter what the request, I can agree." Hee, this king is not greedy for your money, but helpful. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan immediately ordered, "Ji Yu Changfeng, Zhaoniang, you two, help them go to the immortal spring to drink enough, but you must collect the items they paid first. If they don't have them, let them set up a written note, and then collect it later." Yes, Ji Yu Changfeng quickly agreed, but the young lady looked embarrassed. "Senior, can I watch from the sidelines like you?" "No way." A mouthful of refusal, but thinking that the other party is a woman, holding the eldest old man is not the same thing, Zhang Chushuan kindly changed. "However, you only need to help one person, and the rest will be left to Ji Yu Changfeng to do it." Like hungry wolves, the cultivators looked at the young lady. After all, she is also a beauty, and it is excellent to be able to get close to it. But the young lady is about to cry out. One by one the cultivators in front of her, basically starting from middle age, the folds on her face are about to fall to the ground. How can she get off the ground? "Fairy, choose me, hurry up and choose me. It's just right to choose, you're a lot of age, what's so funny?" Everyone scrambled and wanted to get the favor of the young lady, but she walked straight towards the hapless monk in the medicine garden and carried it on her shoulders. Another wail was thrown, throwing an envious look at the monk. Smelling the faint fragrance on the tip of his nose, the monk suddenly forgot Zhang Chushuan's previous actions, but became grateful. "Thank you big guy, thank you fairy." 35. Don't talk. With a cold snort, after walking to the immortal spring, the young lady threw it to the ground, half of her body suspended in the air, and her face was facing the immortal spring. "Drink quickly." 99. The monk wanted to cry without tears, but he tried his best to get to the spring. Later, with the mutual help of Ji Yu Changfeng and many cultivators, almost no one who left drank the immortal spring, and at this time, there was only less than a bowl of spring water left, and they could see the sand below. Seeing that everyone had finished drinking, Zhang Chushuan waved his hand and was about to leave. Boy, let us down. The 5 people of Jin Immortal were instantly anxious. They were piled together. The upper one could not find a borrowing point, and the lower one was under more pressure and could not move at all. Without the help of the rest, they would be trapped here forever. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan looked back and smiled. Old thing, wasn't it very arrogant before? Old man, I'm waiting for the wrong one, please let us down. The 5 of Jin Immortal and Jin Hong hesitated, or admitted their mistake to each other. Hee, it's been like this for a long time, why suffer? Signaling Ji Yu Chengfeng to put them down, Zhang Chushuan walked towards the immortal spring. Boy, you have drunk enough immortal springs, no amount will be effective. 99. That is, don't waste it, leave a few of us old guys. Who said I was going to finish drinking? Smiling slightly, Zhang Chushuan continued to walk forward, twisting the sand in the pool, putting it in his mouth to taste it, and his eyes suddenly brightened. Good thing, it turns out that this sand that has been soaked in the immortal spring also has vigorous vitality, you must bring it back, and it is also excellent to cultivate the lotus flowers brought back last time. Thinking so, Zhang Chushuan began to instruct Ji Yu Chengfeng and Zhao Niang to help him dig the soil. The 5 of Jin Hong looked terrified, afraid that Zhang Chushuan would lose the last bit of immortal spring. Fortunately, he did not lose his conscience, and the nearby sand Wangjiao soil did not move. After digging up a bag full of sand, Zhang Chushuan motioned for the 2 to stop and walk towards the rear of the immortal spring. Fang Kai, he just watched the guy who resembled a stone run away and left from this side, and there should be a big secret hidden in it. Boy, you. Jin Immortal was furious, and Zhang Chushuan just put them in place, regardless of it. But the figures of the 3 had disappeared, and the monks who had drunk the immortal spring nearby also left one after another, no longer lingering. Seeing this, Jin Hong whispered, Elder, what should we do? What to do? Walk. Immortal spring must be obtained, we don't have much time. Behind the old spring, there is a vacant lot, and not far away stands a wooden house, which seems to be the residence of the person who guards the medicine garden. Zhang Chushuan thought for a moment, then said to the 2 people beside him, you guys are here, don't walk around casually, I'll go and take a look. 100%. Chapter 397 Never lied Zhang Chushuan. Ji Yu Chengfeng and Zhao Niang did not know that Zhang Chushuan had taken advantage of them, and at this time they were obediently following his orders and waiting behind the Bu Lao Quan. Walking towards the wooden house, Zhang Chushuan found some remnants of the formation, but after years of erosion, it had long lost its original role and collapsed. Squeak. Slowly pushing open the door of the wooden house, there is only one futon and nothing else. After walking around the wooden house, Zhang Chushuan shook his head and walked out, saying to Ji Yu Chengfeng and Zhao Niang, this place is abandoned and there is no special place to explore. Senior, I think that this dynastic relic can survive until now, not only as simple as it seems on the surface, why don't we go to the rest of the places and take a look? After getting the benefits of the immortal spring, the young lady was a lot active in her heart. If you can find more treasures, you won't come in vain. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly. Indeed, this 4-rank dynasty is full of doubts, and I shouldn't let go of every place. Eyes falling on the 2, Zhang Chushuan suddenly laughed. You 2, go to the rest of the dynasty ruins, take a look, this king is here, maybe you can find something. The 2 looked at each other, nodded and agreed to come down and left immediately. Zhang Chushuan's words, they had to listen. After the 2 walked away 470, Zhang Chushuan returned to the wooden house and kept watching. It seems that this is the place you are protecting. If this king demolishes this place, will you come out? Smiling, Zhang Chushuan is about to destroy the wooden house. Suddenly, a figure flashed quickly in front of him, rushing into the wooden house in the blink of an eye. In an instant, a dazzling light erupted from the wooden house, and Zhang Chushuan had to raise his hand to cover it. When the light dissipated, the wooden house in front of Zhang Chushuan suddenly disappeared. Playing hide and seek with the king. Kind of interesting. Not surprisingly, Zhang Chushuan walked around the original place of the wooden house a few times before returning to the vicinity of the immortal spring. Seeing that the 5 elders of the Day dynasty had not yet arrived, he couldn't help but shake his head. Give you a chance, it's not useful, in this case, then the king will not be polite, you go back directly. Quote. In the angry eyes of the 5, Zhang Chushuan swallowed the last bit of immortal spring into his belly and dug up the sand in it. Seeing that the 5 people were glaring at him, he couldn't help but walk in front of them. What are you going to do? Jin Immortal was suddenly shocked. He didn't want to be stacked by Zhang Chushuan again. At this time the immortal spring was gone. He just wanted to leave from here. Hee, don't panic, it's not to kill you. Although Zhang Chushuan's face was full of smiles, none of the five could laugh. To them, Zhang Chushuan is a demon that specializes in playing with their demons. Okay, you guys continue, I won't bother you. Boy, you wait for the old man. When the old man goes out, he will crush your corpse into thousands of pieces and devour you alive. The incompetent fury of the five rang out behind Zhang Chushuan, but he had dashingly departed without taking a cloud with him. On the other hand, the five elders of the Day dynasty, as before, were piled up by Zhang Chushuan, and if no one could rescue them, they could only get out of trouble by waiting for forbidden contact in the medicine garden. But Zhang Chushuan knew that they would not get out of the trap. The ruins of the dynasty are vast, and after Zhang Chushuan came out of the ancestral land of the back mountain, he saw that there were cultivators flying by from time to time in front of him, and some of them even went to the ancestral land, so he couldn't help but say, all the treasures in the ancestral land were taken away by the five elders of the Day dynasty, but they were also trapped by the prohibition in it. Taoist, is this true? Some cultivators were suspicious. After all, he personally saw Zhang Chushuan walking out of the ancestral land of the dynasty. He himself was safe and sound, but the five elders of the Day dynasty were trapped in it, and no one would easily believe it. Of course, I never lie. Smiling and nodding, Zhang Chushuan took out a little bit of immortal spring sand from the storage bag and said, see. This was one of the few excellent soils in the ancestral land for cultivating elixirs, but it was only collected from the remnants scattered on the ground by the five elders. The elders of the Day dynasty have been trapped by the ban, why don't you grab it? This monk was not stupid after all, and asked Zhang Chushuan for all the details he knew. What do you know? It is only when they are fighting with your fellow human beings that they find a leak. However, the rest of the fellow Dao were bombarded away by the five elders, and they had to leave at this point. Boy, you don't want to cause trouble, do you? The other party's eyes narrowed slightly, and he looked at Zhang Chushuan anxiously, and said, maybe you secretly attacked the elder of the Day dynasty. Humph. Believe it or not, at this point, Zhang Chushuan did not believe that the other party did not take the bait, so he threw his sleeves and left. The opportunity is at hand, but some people are afraid to take risks. Alas, let the rest of the Taoists take it, and they will not be accompanied. 99. Seeing Zhang Chushuan leaving, the monk hesitated slightly, but also rushed towards the ancestral land of the ruins. Seeing this, Zhang Chushuan smiled mysteriously and rushed to the north of the ruins of the Quasi dynasty. Most of the ruins have been explored, but there is one place that can be said to be a place that everyone dare not go to, but it is possible to hide a treasure, the Dynasty Ancestral Hall. The Ancestral Hall is enshrined with spiritual tablets of members of the dynasty, and even in some places, the remains of the dynasty's meritorious ministers will be buried under the Ancestral Hall. As a result, rumors of hauntings often broke out in some ancestral halls, but in fact, they just wanted to see the dynasty at that time. And for these reasons, many cultivators will not easily set foot in other people's ancestral halls to avoid provoking anger. But Zhang Chushuan, a modernly educated traverser, has seen a lot of ghosts, so naturally he will not be taboo about these things. The ancestral hall was built directly north of the dynasty ruins, in the depths of many palaces, usually uninhabited, plus the ruins have existed for an unknown number of years, and this place has long been covered with thick weeds. It seems that no one has set foot here, and Zhang Chushuan is also happy to find it, so that the treasures that may exist in it are unlikely to be taken away. Quack! Suddenly, several black crows flew out of the weeds, almost startling Zhang Chushuan. Adjusting his mind slightly, he cut off the weeds in front of him and strode into the ancestral hall. The spiritual cards in the ancestral hall basically fell, and only a few were still standing tenaciously, but when Zhang Chushuan reached out and touched it, the other party instantly turned into ash and disappeared. In addition to the remains of these spiritual tablets in the ancestral hall, there is also an oil lamp, which is bubbling with a faint yellow light, swaying in the wind. Seeing that the rest of the oil lamps had been extinguished, Zhang Chushuan suddenly became interested. Unexpectedly, I really touched a baby. Unexpectedly, I really touched a baby.